Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome, jerks. We're live. Mike Crawford. Have a huge show tonight. Looking forward to it. Last night was a late night. We may talk about that later. But we're definitely going to talk about the email letter that Betterow wrote. He wrote two of them, actually. We featured one of them on the show last night. We're going to get all the details, hopefully, tonight. He told us he can only answer generically, which means he's not going to give us as much detail as some of the other stuff he talks about. But Attorney Betterow will be here live on the show later tonight, hopefully. Sounds like maybe around 8:30, I believe, with Mazza Media. So tonight we're doing a double feature here. We've got a special guest lined up right now. Wicked excited to have him on the show. First time ever on the Young Jerks. I found out he's a former Massachusetts State police officer for decades, and he was also served in the U.S. military, I believe, with the U.S. Air Force. He is an auditor, a law enforcement auditor, I believe, and like a contractor. And one of the big headlines, related to police chiefs in the past few years is about the Methuen police chief, who I now believe is indicted. And this gentleman that we're going to bring up was at least partially, if not wholly, responsible for a lot of the information that came out related to the Methuen police chief and some of the other stuff that's going on with police chiefs around the state and some of their representatives. So I'm wicked excited because he's a law enforcement whistleblower. It's just another one. We've had, Sean McDonough obviously was a huge one, ex DEA, who came on our show, and Turtle Boy and all those other shows. He's got his own channel now. We also had Peter Murphy. We've had ex FBI agent come on, and this is going to be the second former state police. Todd McGee was the first one that came on our show. So I'm really excited to have him. He served in the Massachusetts State Police up in my neck of the woods in the North Shore, and we actually talked offline about some of the people I grew up with who became police officers that he actually knows. Like, I'm going to throw a name out there, Craig Goodrich from Salisbury. I have a feeling Craig Goodrich is a good cop because I haven't talked to Goody in years, just from growing up with him. The kind of guys that would probably make good police officers, and I got to think Craig Goodrich is one of them. And when I mentioned the name, Larry said he definitely knew him. He also mentioned some of our other family friends, the Saforza family. I got to give Susan Saforza and that family a mention tonight because unfortunately she passed away, and so that's another common friend that we have. So I'm wicked happy to bring him up. Larry Smith. It was a long introduction, but welcome to the Young Jerks.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Appreciate it. Nice to be here tonight.
Nice to be here. I just shouted out some people too, which is I don't even know how well you know them, but I know you do know them. Former law, or even some of them current law enforcement in the local area that I grew up with, and I think they're good guys. I think there are some good law enforcement. We kind of talked about that off the air. You were talking about the Chris Verone interview that we had recently on the show. One of the things that Chris said was that some of the good law enforcement, unfortunately, don't last in the job, so to speak. Do you find that true?
It's banging your head against the wall when it does happen, but I'm not here to ridicule law enforcement. I mean, look, everybody has their own battles in throughout their careers. I mean, law enforcement was good to me. I loved what I did. I enjoyed it. I think I was good at it. Um, Unfortunately, my knee didn't agree with me, and now I'm on this side of it. But no, I think overall, I think, you know, there's a philosophy 10, 80, 10. You get 10% are always going to be your all stars. You get 80% that are going to be the middle of the road workers. And you get 10% that are going to be your problem children. That applies across every organization, whether it's law enforcement or whether it's undertakers or people working in fast food or, I mean, your dump truck driver.
Now you mentioned the 10% who, let's call them the bad apples in any job, and they'll say in law enforcement it's 10%. It feels like to me that for some reason, and I don't understand why, but it seems like the 10% in law enforcement have a bigger sway on the profession of policing, for instance. Is that true? Is that my thoughts on that? Is that reality, or do you think or not?
Well, I think they gain more notoriety by virtue of the role that they play in society. I don't think a police officer getting arrested for an OUI is no different than a plumber getting arrested for an OUI. They've both met the elements of the law. They've both been charged with it, and the court's going to deal with them however they deal with them. But you don't hear about Joe the plumber. You hear about Joe the police officer that was arrested, which I understand that. We're supposed to be held to a higher standard. If we're enforcing the laws, we should be adhering to the laws. I understand that.
Now, you recently wrote a letter. This is the big reason I wanted to have you on the show tonight, is that you wrote this letter about the Canton Police Audit. We've been covering Canton quite a bit and what's going on, specifically with the meetings. They're about to have a Tuesday meeting about this, where they reveal the supposed bids that they got. You decided not to bid on this Canton Police Audit. Can you tell us about that and why you chose to not bid on it, why you chose to write the letter, and what was the letter about?
Yeah, there was a couple of things. I specifically, as a company, as a person, stayed away from the Karen Reed case, expecting that there may be an opportunity for an audit to come up in the future. Audit possibilities to come up in the future, whether it be evidence or operational audit, things of that nature. So we stayed away from it, and the audit did come about as we anticipated. And we put together a team of subject matter experts out out of New England area. So they're coming from out of state, far out of state. So when they all were out there, we brought them in. Brought them in because we wanted to keep the conflict of interest free. We wanted to make sure that they didn't have anything to do with this. I knew it was going to be hard enough even for anybody to take this bid from us because I am a former mass trooper. But I was going to hope that my background and my experiences to date show that I can be, contain my biases, and because everybody does have a bias. And we were going to put forward and have these other experts that come in, and all in all, I would say that we probably had the most qualified crew coming in. You're talking lawyers, the college professors, Naval Academy graduates that were around at this roundtable. And we went 9-0 not to participate. Usually you'd get one or two that would be like, yeah, sure. No, it was unanimous, 9-0. So it was ripe with too many things wrong with it. There was a lose situation all the way around. So I decided I was going to write the letter to withdraw and notify them why. Because what is an RFP? RFP is request for proposal, right? And what's a request for proposal? It's an audition. And basically auditioning for a job. You're providing all your credentials, your experiences, the histories and successes and things of that nature to justify why you should get that job. So as part of that process, we saw that there were issues here. So we actually told the town of Canton what was wrong with their RFP. I think that's a pretty good audition, is telling them straight up, hey, this is what you're paying us to do for the entire department. We're going to tell you right now, this is what's wrong with this. And this was free. It was just a recommendation. Nothing says it was absolutely positively 100% how it has to be. But, the people that were involved in making these decisions, let's put it this way, I wasn't even close to being the smartest one in the room.
What were the recommendations for the town?
Recommendation overall was to withdraw it because it appeared that they had no intent to actually move forward with a audit by virtue of the way it was proposed. So the only way that we would have recommended to move forward would have been to withdraw it and start again.
And how should they start it again? What should they be doing differently this time?
I believe one of my recommendations was that they should hire an outside consultant, that not being us, and have them help them write this scope. There were too many things wrong with the RFP as it stood. It appeared that when you're asking for 10 years of financial records instead of 7, which is industry standards, that makes you get a little bit nervous as an auditor, especially when they're unable to provide all the financial records that are necessary to help you provide that service. And that service alone would be astronomical with the records are, with the way the records are currently from what the public records release says.
And what type of consultant? Is there anyone that, if because some of the people that listen to the show are Canton citizens, and so they would really appreciate if you could give them any type of insight on who what type of person should they be hiring to do that? What kind of consultant? Are there names of companies or people, or just like even a kind of demographic they should be looking for?
It's going to be an equal mix. I mean, mine wasn't all law enforcement. I mean, we had lawyers, we had a lawyer, we had a college professor. We did have police chiefs, we had academy graduates, we had a civilian background investigator that does employment pre-screenings. So there were a good mix of everybody involved. They all had their own area of expertise. I think that's going to be the best way forward, because I don't really think any company has that mix. I mean, yes, any of the big accounting firms could come in and do that, but they're not going to touch it for $200,000. It'd be way, way more than that if you get KPMG or somebody like that to come in and do that. And you're not going to get the law enforcement experience potentially from them. And that's no knock. I'm sure they do a great job, but they're also going to be very, very expensive.
So, people in Canton, I know, especially like Rita Lombardi, they want your firm, I think, already. Like, I could just tell that people, they like your company. Can you just shout out your company so people know the name of it again?
Yes, it's STIRM Group. STIRM stands for Security Training, Investigations, Risk Mitigation.
And it's STIRM, Sturm Group. Is that
Yes,
correct?
sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Glad you said that for me, because sometimes it's people notice I screw up names, I mispronounce.
I
Is it?
appreciate it.
Yeah, there was a name last night. People said I screwed up with it. Jaduso or Genduso. I don't know. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I'm trying. Uh, so I'm just reading the comments. I want to know if people have questions right now, too. If you got any questions right now for Larry Smith of the Sturm Group, you can put them in the chat right now. I do have some more questions, though.
Let's have them.
Yeah, I mean, you tell us about what happened at Methuen in your role. Like with this Methuen police chief is under indictment now, right?
He is. I was hired in October of 2021 to investigate forged training records for a former police officer. They were the academy records that authorized him to be a police officer. So, long story short, those records were in fact forged with the help of other individuals in the police department. This case was made and presented on 7 different occasions to the Essex County District Attorney's Office and Attorney General. The Attorney General, well, was under the current governor, and all 7 times they declined. So, second report, a report was written and outlined all the entire case, to include how all these individuals refused to investigate a fake police officer with forged credentials that had arrested or summoned over 60 people. So technically, I mean, at least unauthorized arrest, kidnapping potentially. You gave a guy a badge and a gun and said, go to work. And then that rolled into, during that investigation, we ended up going down the rabbit hole with the MPTC, the Municipal Police Training Committee, over a comment that they made on the first document request when they sent us the forged record. So the MPTC had actually sent me a copy of the forgery that Methuen had as part of a public records request. So they had it in their file folders down in Randolph. And here's the problem. We now know Sean Fountain never went to the academy. So how does Sean Fountain have a yellow card, which is a card that everybody signs on day one when you go to this academy, and they have to keep him forever? So how does he have a criminal justice training council, which is a defunct organization, for over 20 years when he never actually went to the academy?
Is that why he's under a federal indictment right now?
They're not under federal; they're under state.
Oh, state. He's under state indictment.
Yes, sir. Out of
So
Essex.
who finally did something about it? So someone at the state did actually do something about it.
Yes, we ended up. I submitted a 203-page report that's been impounded for almost 2 years now, coming up on 2 years. And that report was attached to a 50-page affidavit written by a lieutenant at the time, now captain, of Methuen Police Department, as an affidavit arrest warrant for Sean Fountain for forgery, conspiracy, and other charges.
So one of his own people arrested him?
Sean had already been forced out into civilian life.
Wow.
At that point.
But the same police department that he worked at were the ones that eventually went after him and charged him?
Yes, and they had to do it that way because the Essex District Attorney and the Attorney General turned him down 7 times. This was the last. We were up against statute of limitations. If we didn't push forward, we would have lost the ability to charge certain crimes that we were getting ready to expire. So this was the last best effort, which was to write a completely honest report and outline all the different times we brought the cases to the different DAs and prosecutors. And when you start looking at the political connections and things of that nature, it gets a little hairy.
Can you tell us the DA? Was it Blodgett or is it Paul Tucker? Who was the Essex County DA or both of them that turned it down in the AG?
Nope. Blodgett's office was the one that turned it down 3 times and failed to make Brady notifications. And Tucker's office was the one that impounded the report.
So they're both in on it. Blodgett, who retired, and Tucker, who covered it up after the fact, kind of impounded it.
I mean, there's a legitimate reason for why it was impounded, but at this point, they've both been indicted. There appears to be no additional follow-on charges. I mean, I've never even been put in a grand jury. They didn't bother to use my report. They went and did their own investigation based off of my report as a roadmap because they don't want my report coming out because it makes too many politically connected and elected officials look bad.
Wow. Crazy. This is what about the Attorney General? Was that Maura Healey at the time, I'm guessing?
It was during her run for governor. It was the same year.
And what do you think about her? Because she hasn't done anything on any of these scandals that have happened recently, we've noticed.
She hasn't done anything by me in regards to doing what I would have thought should have been done. I mean, how do you explain why you would not investigate and criminally charge a corrupt police chief and a dirty city council chair that conspired to put a fake cop and put all the residents of Methuen in danger by giving him a badge and a gun and allowing him to run rampant for 4 years? I mean, they promoted him to detective. He never went to an academy. I mean, what is in that report will shock the conscience.
Wow. I hope it gets unimpounded. I would like to read that. I would like to share that with people. Unfortunately, we can't right now. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is still impounded, but that doesn't mean the book's not going to come out before the trial.
Maybe we should all start contacting the district attorney of Essex County, Paul Tucker, and say, Paul, stop covering it up. Unimpound that. I mean, it needs to be. We paid for this, right? We paid for this audit.
Yeah, the city of Methuen did pay for this audit. Yes, they're the ones that hired me.
It seems like the citizens should. I hope people FOIA the hell out of this. Paul Tucker, the Essex County DA. We need to get, and journalists too.
Oh, there's
gotta get
so
maybe
much,
someone will leak it for
wrong
us.
there. I mean, if you just in regards to the Methuen case, I mean, I can show you a reporter that was fired right after she released the article that broke the story. I can show you another article of a reporter that actually wrote a 3-part expose exposing the corruption in Methuen, and that article was killed killed the day before. That reporter took his car keys and phone and walked out and never to report again from there. Another
So
one
the
had
the first reporter, were they fired for the story too? Both of these reporters, do you think?
first one was fired for a trumped up reason, is from what I can
Yeah.
understand from the people in
Do
the
you think
media
they'd
that
ever
I've
talk
spoken
or
to.
come on a show like this to talk about that?
I don't know. It's something you'd have to talk to her about.
This is why people don't trust the corporate media. I mean, I've experienced a little bit myself. I see how it works. It sucks. So that's why a lot of people that make the jump to where we're at on YouTube or Substack or just doing it yourself are doing so well because we're not being held back by the minions above us, for just it really sucks when you're in that position when you're getting censored by the people who are paying, supposed to have your back, and they're the ones who are actually effing with you the most, which is the way of traditional media in a lot of respects, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's kind of the same way in everything. I mean, uh, you look at what goes on in these cities and towns. I mean, Methuen's just one of 351 cities and towns. Every town has some scam going that's costing them thousands and thousands of dollars. Um, so it's really got to be figured out. It's you got to figure out where this money's going. It's all about the money. It's easy to follow. You just have to have the time. I mean, look at the difference between an engaged citizenry. Look at what the people of Canton have been able to accomplish over their time by making sure that they've united, they've compelled people. From what I understand, this was voted down initially by the board to have an audit, and
Yeah.
then I guess they put together the signature drive to have the special meeting and the vote to do that. So now you have 903 to 800 vote. So you've got people that are engaged. These same people need to stay engaged throughout because you want what you want as the taxpayer, as the people that they're representing. At the end of the day, these people do still work for us. And you get to tell them every 2 years in Massachusetts whether or not you want to keep them. And if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, vote their asses out.
Yeah,
Democrat
definitely.
or Republican, it doesn't matter. If they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing for you, vote them out. And the only way you get to do that is if you stay engaged.
That's it. It's been working too. Like I think people expect change overnight, but unfortunately, that's not the way it works.
It takes 3 generations.
Yeah, but it's all about what you said. You gotta, as long as people stay on what they've been doing, which we've seen that mostly. I mean, some of the meetings you don't always see the same turnout, but people are on this in terms of finding out, doing the FOIA request, documented salaries, doing like people are engaged. So I agree with you. I hope people have that long term view because
There's
it's
strength
going to
in
happen.
numbers.
Yeah,
There's strength in numbers. Look at Market Basket back in 2014, 13, 14.
I covered
Was it?
this. Yeah,
I mean, they brought that chain to a standstill. The employees supporting one owner over the other owner to the point that he compelled the sale. And up until that point, that had been the most expensive legal battle in the history of
yeah. That
Massachusetts.
that that would have never got sold. That pressure from the employees and the public together. That was huge. That was
Absolutely.
all.
So,
I did the RDT. What do you call that? The challenge where we poured buckets of water. The
Ice
employees
Bucket
did it for.
Challenge.
Yeah, we did that.
Yeah,
for Market Basket employees. They were calling in back then. That was great, actually. That was a good time on our show back then. Um, yeah, there is such a power in numbers. It's so true. And I think people in Canton definitely have to keep their head up. Rita Lombardi's in the chat. She's one of them. She's like one of the main leaders over there. She's been doing a great job. Thank you so much, Rita, for being in the chat tonight. We got some more questions. Have you probably been, I'm guessing, watching what's going on in Canton with some of the police audit meetings? Did you see the latest one?
I did. I watched it because we were expecting the answers to the questions that we had submitted. And yeah, we let's just say we weren't disappointed that we withdrew.
Yeah, I mean, it just have you. I'm imagining you work with some other towns. You've seen the way town government works. Have you ever seen anything like what we're seeing from, let's say, this guy Bob McCarthy? I mean, he just the way he runs a meeting. Have you seen anyone run a meeting like he runs a meeting?
I've seen people get out of control at meetings, but not necessarily the chairman of the board. The chairman of the board is supposed to be the level-headed one to stay kind of on the sidelines and to keep everything at a simmer, if you will, if it's a hot button, hot topic issue. And he was, I mean, be honest with you, that almost, I mean, I'll tell you, that looked just like a hostile work environment.
God, I'm glad you said that. Hostile work environment. That's exactly what that looked like. Maybe we should bring in OSHA. I know they're not employees; they're volunteers, but I mean, it really does resemble a hostile work environment. That's a very good point, Larry.
And I'm not sure, but I would have thought there was a violation of the open meeting law when the three of them got up and left.
Totally, totally.
So, yes, I did watch that meeting, but it was after we'd already made the decision to withdraw.
How would you feel if you were a resident of Canton right now about what's going on?
I'd be upset. I'd be upset. My tax dollars being spent like this, and people. I mean, the division in that town is astronomical, from what I understand. I've stayed out of it. I've stayed up in my North Shore commune, and I didn't really follow the trial because I was tied up in an evidence room doing an audit for at least a month of that.
Who were you auditing there?
I can't really divulge that at this time.
Okay.
We're not finalized. Sorry.
Top secret. I get it. I love it. You're secret agent, man.
No, just don't want to do anybody's business. It'll become a public record once the report gets published. But until that point, I gotta
play by the rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's what we like, though. I don't want any of us getting in trouble. So I like that you play by the rules. It's keeps me out of trouble.
I mean, the truth matters. I mean, it really is what it comes down to. I mean, what's the point of putting out an audit if you don't know what you're looking for? If you have no specifications, no requirements? I mean, the people that were looking at this, I mean, these are industry leaders. They've written these RFPs. They've read them. They've written them. They've fulfilled them, and they're all like, "We've never seen one like this." I mean, there's over 250 years of experience in that room, and not a single person has seen anything this bad in regards to no specificity. I mean, $200,000. Another thing is with their insurance, the way they wrote their insurance aspect of it, $2 million versus it limits you. I have a higher insurance deductible. I have a higher insurance premium, a higher insurance policy for my company already than what they were requiring. But because they require that, the insurance policy will only honor that. So, by putting certain things in, they don't give you the options. It costs us more money to have to get the additional insurance policy, because I can't use that other $1 million I had. That's what I have an insurance guy for. He's like, this is bad for you. And it comes down to the little things. It's part of doing the due diligence before you put in for it, which is why we decided not to put forward. I mean, I really think that the people, if you're going to spend that $200,000, you need to understand it's not $200,000 for a full audit as to what they are expecting. That was so cumbersome. It was basically design me a police department.
What do you think a good number? Like, let's just say they changed nothing. They kept it the way it is. What would the number actually should it be?
Oh, I couldn't even begin, because I haven't seen any of their policies. I've seen none of their. I can't even begin to speculate by virtue of that, because I've got nothing that I need to be able to even remotely give you that. I mean, for us, the first thing is you got to get all the documentation. You got to become familiar with this. So all the policies, procedures, rules, regulations, bargaining contracts, addendums, the commission superior officers contract, bylaws for the city council, how they interact, all that type of stuff. all the records that you need. And then you have to start digesting that. It takes a while to get it. The timing that they were looking for, I mean, was going to be horrible. I mean, we were going to lose a day because of Veterans Day. We lose probably three. We're going to say we're going to lose the whole week of Thanksgiving, and then we lose 2 more weeks through the Christmas break. So right there, you've got a month out of that 5 month window. So now you're down to 4 months that they're expecting this to come back at. The way they wrote it was that it was a hard $200,000. That's not even remotely close to. That would take that $200,000 might be what it will take to do your forensic accounting with a forensic accountant for the 7 years, based off the records that I saw the other day.
So that would just be one piece of it, the forensic accounting. So like the length of time you mentioned, that's become talked about as well. And it was, what would be more appropriate? Like, how long do you think something like this could take? Like,
Minimum of a year.
okay. Makes sense. I hope that they're listening right now.
There's a lot to it. I mean, it's not something you fly in. It's not like, okay, I go in and I do just an evidence room audit, and okay, of 5,000 pieces, I'm in and out of there in a month and a half, maybe 2 months, depending on how long it takes. Now you've got 100% audit of this, but the rest of it, no. That's that one piece, maybe. It depends on how bad the evidence room is. Everything is about time. Whether it's the auditor's time, the consultant's time, it's all time. And when you look in evidence pieces, you got to go. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's just 2,000 pieces." Well, it's 2,000 minutes. Do the math. It comes out to be a lot of money.
Yeah, time is money,
Everybody
especially
has
when
to
you're
underestimate.
skilled.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely. It's not like I can stick $15 an hour kids in the
yeah,
evidence room to
no.
do an inventory.
These are senior type people
Yeah,
with
these are all retired
years and
law enforcement
decades of
officials
experience.
with, yeah,
Yeah, who don't have to work anymore. That's the thing
no,
too. Like, people have to realize, once you get to a certain point, you kind of have to be enticed to work. You don't have to work.
no.
So
And these are the guys that you want because they want to work.
yeah,
So if they're willing to work and they want to work, those are the best ones to get.
yeah, you got to pay them what they're worth.
Absolutely.
What you mentioned evidence locker. Obviously that would be audited. That's like a big thing that happens. What are some of the other types of audits? You mentioned the financial audits. Like, would that be on payroll and time slips and things like that? Like, is that what
That
you're talking about there? Like,
that could be that, but it could also be the asset forfeiture accounts for law enforcement. There's a federal asset sharing account, and then there's a state asset sharing account. Um, that money comes in from different operations, from drug proceeds or whatnot, that law enforcement will be able to spend on training and equipment, not on overtime. Um, so that goes back to the cities and towns, and it's spent strictly for law enforcement. So there's those accounts. You could have abandoned property, lost and found accounts. The one thing you shouldn't do is commingle them, and matter of fact, you can't commingle the federal funds. So there's some issues going on with, from what I understood from the public records request, that there was some issues in regards to the money being spread across multiple banks to decrease risk. So I don't know what that means for the accounts.
hmm. I mean, I think that could make sense today in today's environment with the interest rates. When they raised the interest rates for some people, it was difficult for some banks, but it also obviously raises some red flags, doesn't it?
The interest
Awesome.
rates?
Yeah, no, in terms of just the multiple bank thing and
Oh yeah, no. I mean, look, law enforcement's not designed to hold money. I mean, we're not police departments. I mean, local police departments are being designed to house prisoners for a weekend at least now. But they're not really supposed to be housing them for much more than a day or two. And we're not banks. We're not designed to house money. Things that go missing historically out of law enforcement evidence room are guns, drugs, and cash. So why do you want to hold on to something any longer than you need to? Put it in a bank. The bank is now accountable. It produces a monthly statement. Unless that money has biological factor to it, so blood from blood splatter or some other type of biological evidence to it, you don't need that individual bill. You can get all the serial numbers. You can take photocopies of it, but that money should go back to a bank. There's no reason um, for it to be staying in the police departments. I mean, it's just a vulnerability, just like drugs from expired cases. Well, I'm not going to steal drugs, or if I'm going to do something like that from an open case, I'm going to go steal drugs from an old case, less
Right.
likely to get caught. That's what historically happens. Um, same thing with firearms. You don't, get rid of the stuff that doesn't need to be in them.
Absolutely. I mean, I think like that even personally. When I have cash in the house, it's like put in the bank because you don't want anyone, in case you have a fire or you know what? The other thing, animals. I've had animals eat money. Like I've seen that happen before where
Oh,
it only happened once with one of our customer dogs. I'm telling stories I shouldn't tell, but it's just animals will eat fucking money and so on, like things like mice. And so you just never know with the cash dollar. There's a lot of different ways it could go away. Let's just put it
yep,
that way.
yep. Um,
But obviously there's risk in banks too, you
oh,
just you know.
absolutely. But they're at least look. We're designed to house prisoners, not cash. Banks aren't
Exactly.
designed to house prisoners. You use what you use based off of what's necessary. You want to make sure, especially where those are the big risk items: guns, drugs, and cash, high
Yeah.
value
Especially
items.
when it takes the risk off of you as a police department and puts it on, the bank. So
Absolutely,
that's licensed and insured for that thing, and that's their
absolutely.
thing. Yeah.
You
So
know,
it
you
makes
know,
sense.
you know when the last bank deposit went in. You know when the last
Exactly.
withdrawal was. It's all there for
There's a
basically
record.
7 years. So
So are there any other parts of the audit that people normally ask for with police departments? Like we talked about the financial, we talked about the drug evidence lockers. There must be other types, like maybe arrest like audits. Like what other types of audits do people do?
audits aren't just cash or drugs. Typically, audits are a form of an investigation. There's criminal investigations, there's audit investigations. Audits tend to be more of a paper trail. You're going to see what the policies and procedures are, compare those to industry best standards, if they're updated, if they've been updated. Are they being adhered to? What's the discipline if it's not being adhered to? Um, Things of that nature. You're going to go back. You're going to make sure the physical security um, is adequate for the building. I mean, times have changed. Maybe you want to put bollards in front of the glass partition that divides uh, your entry doors, so nobody drives in. We've had people starting to drive into police departments lately. Things of that nature. So you need to evaluate those. You need to evaluate the sick. You look at the sick leave. You're going to find those are all the things. I mean, you can look at any aspect that you think that you need to look at. It could be a use of force. It could be the training. It could be any element. But here, they wanted all of it with
Yeah,
little to no explanation as to what they were hoping for us to provide them.
I feel you on that. I know now it makes sense too, because I feel like a lot of the audit was a response to the handling of the Sandra Birchmore situation and the John O'Keefe situation, and things like that the police officers collected evidence and solo cops and placed evidence in Shaw's brown paper bags instead of something that was sterile, and using leaf blowers and leaving the scene unsecure and having major conflicts of interest and not asking to go into a house and just so many lack of standard operating procedure from normal what most people would expect both local Canton Police and state police to do, and it wasn't done. It wasn't done the right way so many times. There was even another situation where this gentleman, Craig Casey, they found basically a car accident, and then they didn't find the body. They left the scene, and then the neighbor said, "Hey, some guy's falling asleep here," and it was the body. Like there's so many incidents in Canton where they're just screwing up. It just doesn't make sense what's going on. So, what would your advice be to the Canton citizens that they should be asking for in that type of situation? Is it a bunch of the training? Is it the standards? What do you think? The operating? They don't have any operating plan. Like what's the situation? What do you think they should do? Because I think the
Well,
citizens don't know what to do.
they did say they don't have a strategic plan in the meeting the other day, so they don't have any long range forecast as to what they are planning on doing within the police department. Um, and when I'm just looking back at this audit and saying the audit of the Canton Police Department, the policies and procedures and adherence to the policies and the procedures, including policies, procedures, and regulations, crime scene protocols, professional standards and accountability, organizational structure and governance, citizens' privacy protections, management, operations, and culture, hiring, training standards, and equipment, citizen complaint process, conflicts of interest, select board oversight, and industry standards, recommendations and compliance review, recommended improvements, evidence review, police detail financial review, additional administrative items to review, civil rights review, and a presentation to the
So it
citizenship.
sounds like $1 million. That sounds like $1 million plus. Is that what would you like? I know you're not going to give me a number,
I
but
can't.
that wouldn't be out
I
of the
couldn't even.
ballpark, right?
I couldn't. Could it be out of the ballpark? I would say no.
Yeah,
Could it be? Yes, but I don't. I don't really know. I mean,
yeah.
I can't give you that number because there's just so much there. I have no idea what Canton currently has or anything like that. But that is, when you're signing a contract for this, I mean, that's huge, especially when you have potential involvement in high profile legal cases. I mean, you have the Karen Reed case coming up for the second time. You have the Sandra Birchmore investigation ongoing. How it's not far stretched to think that whatever company gets this is going to get drawn into this. And now you've just spent $200,000, and now you're going to turn around and have to spend $200,000 to send your people to court to sit there as witnesses and things of that nature to this.
Yeah, so you'd
There's no
lose your shirt if you did this, basically. If you took this on for 200,000, you would lose money big time, wouldn't you? Basically, is what
yeah,
you told us. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
It's like me. I mean, I run a dog walk business. I can't lose business. I'd like lose money while doing business. It's not how things work. And I can totally see someone said 2 million plus easy. That's what they're guessing. I mean, to me, that's what it seems like. It seems like it's a way bigger number than what they're offering for all the reasons you just listed. I mean, when you just listed everything that they want in that audit, each one of them is a major report that needs to be investigated, written up, and a lot of
Right,
time, money.
right. So you could turn around and you could drill that down and bring and still cover all those things, but only cover a portion of each one. And then if you find issues in one area, they'll expand it out to the point that, okay, that was just a one off. Now you deal with it and you move forward. Um, or you do the entire thing. You need some specificity.
It sounds like it needs to be specificity. I can't even say the word specificity. I'm
Specificity.
stumbling.
Yep.
Specificity, but it also it sounds like it needs to be narrowed down a bit. Like you can't have everything. Like figure out. I think Canton needs to figure out what needs to actually be audited here.
Absolutely. And that's why I believe there was a lady, a consultant, a young female party that stood up at the meeting and was a consultant and gave them the same recommendation that I did in the letter, which is you really should probably go outside and hire a consultant to help you put the RFP together so that you can actually get the most for your $200,000. Now that consultant knows what. Okay, you're spending $200,000. This is what $200,000 should get you. This is where we should focus this. This is how you should word this. And now go back and put it back out. Or if you still want to stick to the scope and all-encompassing scope of this one, then you need to go back and figure out where you're going to get the rest of the cash, because whatever you're going to get for $200,000 to meet what is just posted is going to be garbage.
Now they're supposed to have a meeting on Tuesday to unveil the bids, record the bids.
Yep.
they received. From what I've heard, they've received one bid. I don't know if they've received any others. What do you think they should do if they receive one bid or two bids?
Well, that's the nice thing about the RFP process, Mike. It's not low bid. Low bid is okay, whatever is there at the end. If only one submits and that's low bid, that's it. Here, RFP, again, talked about that audition. It's you have to submit the package and two things, but you need three people to put in for it first. Otherwise, if three people don't, you can put the bid back out for additional people. At that point in time, you can make changes. Nothing says they couldn't have just withdrawn the bid after last meeting if they so chose. The three of them decided we're going to withdraw the bid and redo this in that vote, then they would have withdrawn the bid and redone this. And our recommendation still stands: withdraw the bid, resubmit, have a start date after January. Ideally, have a start date after the Karen Reed trial. Because how much effort are we going to be able to get back from the police department during the trial to
Not
get
much,
records
right?
that we need?
So it'd be better after the trial's over. That's what you're saying. Start it
Ideally,
after.
ideally, yes. But I think that's what this was planned to be initially. And then obviously they had the mistrial, and now you're here. But
That's the thing. I think people, even though we think supposedly the trial was happening in January, it seems like it's probably more likely in March or April at this point. So
yeah, well, I don't know what like I said, I haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to that aspect of it.
yeah.
But I do understand that the policies and the procedures at Canton, going back to the audit, haven't been updated since 2000, I believe.
So maybe
So
they should focus on that right now. Well, maybe
the
take a
policies and
chunk out of that.
procedures. I mean, we use a training model called PTSD, and it's not for the post traumatic stress. So, but it comes down to policy. Every department has to have a policy. That policy is the so all the policies. So if you find a policy, a use of force policy, you have a foot pursuit policy, you have a cruiser pursuit policy, you have all these different policies that are created. Now, once you make sure they're up to industry best standards and practices and fall within the legal guidelines of what the town bylaws are and the regulations for the town, and the city solicitor signs off, that's your pursuit policy. Okay. So now you have to take that policy, you have to train that policy. So this is the PT. Here's the training aspect of it. You got to teach them you got to teach them what this new policy is. So you got to train everybody in the policy. Then you go over to the S for the supervision. Okay, everybody's been trained. Now the supervisors have to do their job. They have to make sure that the people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And then you have the disciplinary aspect of it if they're not following through on repetitive times. That's how you're going to improve this. Make sure that the policies are there. Make sure that people get the training that they do. Make sure the supervision's following through on the training and here, making sure that this is being taken care of. And unfortunately, at some point, you have to have discipline. It's just like being an auditor. You have to have uncomfortable conversations at some point in time. And, they're not always of our own making or own doing, but, if you're the person holding the bag when the music stops or you don't have a seat, you're it.
Yeah. I'm reading comments right now. Someone has just asked. Here is one. Has Larry viewed any of the audit meetings? We did answer that. I mean, do you want to comment any further on anything else on the audit meetings that you didn't get to earlier, Larry?
No, just that it was unprofessional, and that it was I would almost guarantee you a violation of open meeting law.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I immediately thought. And David, who was sitting there, said it. And it's so obvious that's what was going on.
It looked that way to me, but it's not my place to fight. So somebody will take that up, I'm sure.
Now, you know what's obvious to me too is from watching those guys. I don't think at least two of them realized even that they were breaking open meeting law. So I just like that just shows you the dysfunction in the town. You got these people on camera who are, one of them's a doctor and the other one's a former law enforcement, and they put themselves in the position that they don't even know what the rules are. Apparently, that's what it looked like to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it seemed to me that they didn't even recognize that by taking a break like that, walking out together.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. Everybody on that board is a volunteer. So how much time? I mean, yes, should they maybe have put more time in? I don't know. I don't know what their backgrounds are in regards to how much experience they have being on boards, not being on boards, or anything else like that. But at the end of the day, they somebody should have known that the chairman, who said he's been using Robert's rules for 35 years, should have understood that. And
Exactly. And that
he's the
should be
one.
something to me that the town should hand, like on day one, when you get, especially for volunteers, like when you get nominated to a board to serve on the town, any type of board that they have, I don't care what it is, they should hand you a piece of paper that says these are the basic rules. And like that's one of the most common rules. You don't have meetings outside the meeting. You just don't. That's all. It's a state law against it. It's pretty easy to understand.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely, and they should, and they shouldn't have done it. But I'm not going to be the one that has to do that investigation. That's the state at this point, and if somebody chooses to file. But no, the
I'm sure
chairman's
it's been
supposed to
fun.
be the calming voice in this, and in this case, he was more the accelerant.
Yeah, and he won't resign. Like he's just adamant that he's right about everything.
I don't know what to tell you. That's something the town has to figure out with their legal counsel and whatnot. It's not you know, it seems like it was the, I mean, with Mr. McCarthy saying 3-2-3-2, it seems like the board was set up to fail.
Absolutely. I mean, just the appointment of them too. It was just like the finance director appointed McCarthy, and then he appointed the other two guys. It's just like it's really shady. And McCarthy was like one of the chief opponents of the audit, so it's like he was the most vocal, and that's who you have chairing it. Like he's against the audit, and so now you're gonna have him run the audit.
Yeah, it's a little odd, and it's obvious. It's obvious he's not giving it a fair shake. It's 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. I stopped counting how many times I heard 3-2.
Yes. Yep. And he
Um,
even said it. We have 3-2. We don't have to talk about this. Like he said it. He said it out loud.
yeah, and one of the things I had a problem with is, and I get it. You don't want people not to put in for this, but you also have a legal obligation to let these auditing companies know what they may be walking into. You're not saying that you're acknowledging that there's something wrong here, but you should be. If they're coming in from California. I heard somebody say one from California asked questions. Well, maybe they don't know, and maybe that's their responsibility to do their due diligence and whatnot. But you have kind of an obligation to make sure that they understand what they may find themselves tied up into from the legal standpoint with these cases.
This must be frustrating for you because I can imagine. I'm thinking that this is like as a business owner, because I'm a business owner, and I know like on a different level, we run into the same stuff with the dog walking. Like people don't want to pay sometimes, but for me, I'm in a good spot where I can go next. We got so many people that want to pay, but and this it just I feel like there aren't that many cities and towns I'm imagining that are doing police audits, and you have one locally that you probably want to help and you want to do the business. You have the best team to do it, but it's just unreasonable what they're asking for. So you basically do what I do when you have an unreasonable customer. You say, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going to take your business. It's not worth it to me. I'd rather not have you as a customer. And that's basically what you've had to do, right? And it's got to be frustrating for you on this, I imagine.
Well, it's not as frustrating as actually going through the hoops and then losing a bid because, I mean, it takes, to complete something like that for that package with the detail that they were looking for, that takes close to 200 hours to put together. So now you go and you lose a bid, you just lost 200 hours of labor. So there's a lot of money in these when you go into doing these, um, So and then to walk away with nothing. So we were fortunate. We elected to do this process early, and we didn't have to put in to lose. Somebody else might have. If they've got one or two companies that put in tomorrow, I don't think they can legally award it to them.
Wow.
I think
And
you need three.
that's an interesting thing that you just said that I didn't even think about.
I think you need three.
Just to bid, you're spending 200 hours. Like and you have to make a big investment just to bid. And so
Yeah.
why, thank God you cut your losses are nothing. Even if you, had bid on this is just, it is a nightmare.
I mean, you
Very
might be able to
interesting.
get it done a little bit quicker, but I'd say 200 hours is pretty conservative.
So I feel almost bad for these companies that might get suckered in. Sounds like they may get some inexperienced people who are kind of desperate for the business. I don't know. What kind of applicants do you think that they're going to get? Do you think they're going to get the best quality or probably inexperienced people, if you had to guess?
Just based on, I'm not saying that they're not qualified. What I'm saying is they might not realize what the how long it's going to take to get done. So they may very well be good at what they do, but they may be bad at estimating, and that's just as dangerous as being bad at being a bad auditor. Because at the end of the day, you still have to finish the project, whether you got for the contracted price, unless you can show why the scope of service needs to be changed. And let's not forget the fact that you got to factor in there's a high possibility that you're going to be tied up in court because you're going through the policies and procedures and all that stuff, and these cases are coming up.
So they want someone that's not qualified. What do you think about that one, Larry?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, it was said to us in the meeting. One of the individuals that was in that meeting basically said straight up that it doesn't sound like they even want an audit the way this is written.
Yeah, it kind of feels like that lately.
It's, that's how we all kind of took it, but he's the one that put the words to it. So I don't think I mean, I don't know. I don't know who would. I don't know who's going to put in for it.
I want to ask you about a couple other things. You were a Mass State Police officer. For how many years?
22.
22. And you're in the Newbury, Mass barracks. Is that correct?
I was at one point, yes.
And what were some of the other barracks that you served in?
I've spent time over at Homeland Security doing document fraud investigations into the people that make the fraudulent IRS Social Security cards, passports, visas, things of that nature. Then I spent a few years over at DEA and back in uniform until my knee gave out.
When you do that fraud stuff, is it mostly like scammers, or is it mostly like illegal, citizens trying to get in, or is it like something else I'm not thinking of? Like why do people have fake IDs? Is it terrorists? Like what is it?
Well,
Or drug deal?
back then it was basically to be able to work. You had to have
Work, yeah.
Social Security card, so you had to be able to get a Social Security card to work. You had to be able to have work papers to establish rent, and it's just part of the process to get to the point of being able to establish an identity. And if you can get, there's different types of birth certificates and things that other people are getting and using to establish identifications here. When they first turned on facial recognition, they found one Dominican fellow with it was like 13 or 14 felony trafficking warrants, and every time you get grabbed, you get out on bail, you go buy a new Puerto Rican birth certificate, establish a new identity. And when they turned the facial recognition on, they found him in there 13 times. So there's numerous games that can be played with these different identifications. They keep trying, but with the advent of these printers and things of that nature, it's just getting harder and harder to do. I mean, you look at the Hollywood money that's being printed out that people can buy online, says Hollywood. That's fooled a few of the cannabis companies in Massachusetts.
So I'm kind of not surprised about that. The way some of these get, that was my beat for so long. I'm definitely pro cannabis, but I'm not sure I'm pro cannabis company. Let's put it that way. Some of these companies are just not good.
Uh,
Um,
I'll
it
take your word
depends.
for that.
Some of my friends are in the business and they do great. So it depends on, it can't blanket statement everyone. Uh, here's a question to Larry. No Higgins. No, from the DEA. No, no, he did not know Higgins. I have a question about your state police though, Time. Um, were you like, I've been hearing that there's different types of state police officers. There's they consider themselves the real state police officers. And then there were these other state police officers who were like with the Metropolitan Police or other, like, registry police, and then became state police officers when their outfits got taken over.
Yeah, there was an RTT, real trooper, versus the people that were merged in the Mets, the Capitol, the Registry, and the MDC.
Do you
Uh,
think there was a class system, like almost like a caste system based on that, like where, like you're a real trooper? You just said that thing there. Do you think there was a class system or caste system on that, or is that just kind of been blown out of proportion on some other shows I listened to?
I think that's been blown out of proportion. I think it was for a couple of years, but you had some lieutenant colonels, you know, that came from these other organizations that didn't start as RTs. So I don't really know how they're saying that there's a class system. A test is a test is a test. You still got to pass the test. You got to get to captain first before you can get to major and lieutenant colonel. There are people that test well, and there's people that don't test well.
Excellent. And you went through the academy, Mass State Police Academy.
I did.
What do you think about this death of Enrique?
Well, I'm going to tell you, like I told everybody else that wants to run around saying conspiracy, conspiracy. You can't grieve a union violation despite the fact that management's sitting here telling you they're going to violate it until they actually violate it. You can't scream about a bad investigation until you give them time to do the investigation. And the investigation hasn't been done. So once the investigation is done and people want to complain about it being a bad investigation, that's a different story. Right now, it's still under investigation, and I'm not going to comment on that.
And when you went through the Mass State Police Academy, how was it? Was it? We've heard some stories like about other things that have happened there. Did you find it abusive or was it fine?
No, it was nothing different than a boot camp. I had no issues with it. Um, you know, yeah, is it a head game? Absolutely. But you know what? The first time that you get punched in the face shouldn't be on the side of Route 2 in Orange at 2 o'clock in the morning. You're not with DEA agents or FBI's where they're doing an operation. You have other people with you. Or if you're a local department, you have somebody a minute or a couple miles away. I mean, as a trooper, you might be 20 or 30 miles away from the closest cruiser, and you could be rolling around with somebody on the side of the road. So, the whole concept is 2 minutes. Everything's over in 2 minutes. Either the bad guy or girl is in cuffs, fight's over, they're in the wind, or you're out of the fight. Those are the three options. It's over under in 2 minutes usually. So that's why you have to understand what happens. The academy is designed to be tough because tough things happen. I'm not saying you have to be tough, but you can't be shocked. It can't be the first time. So you train like you train like you're going to perform on the road. And unfortunately, sometimes bad things happen to good people. I don't know
Now,
what happened here, and I'm not going to comment on that.
definitely, Mass State Police Trooper Tom McGee's a friend of the show. He come on, and he
Mm-hmm.
actually was the people who kind of set up the boxing program
Mm-hmm.
and ran it at certain points. He had been a drill sergeant there too as well, so he's got
He
some
was mine.
experience. Do you know Todd?
I do.
Yeah, good guy.
Yes, he is.
Um, Go
He's a
ahead.
good guy.
Sorry.
He's a
Yeah,
good guy. He knows what
yeah,
he's
I like
talking
him a
about.
lot. Now, one of the things he said is that they didn't have a ring, and that this is like, basically for training. It's not about competition. It's not about like when I wrestled in high school. It's not about winning the medal or winning the bracket. It's really about training and make sure that every guy or lady can defend themselves, which is that makes the most sense to me. However, there are different sources going around, and I have a source too on this that I do kind of believe. Um, on the one hand, they kind of gave some information that the family didn't like because basically, or maybe I think it was more like the family's representative. I don't really know how the family felt, but basically, I got some pushback because it didn't really jive with some of the information the family was putting out. But the source also said that some of these state troopers were betting on the results of the fight. Do you think that's could happen? Like, you've been there. I just think you have more of a first-hand experience there. Is that crazy talk, or is that could be possible? I mean, I know you're
I
not going to
can't
say
see
you
that
don't
happen.
know.
I can't see that happening. And as a recruit, I wouldn't know that anyways. They're isolated, and if there was somebody there, I mean, the gym's open to all troopers. They're allowed to work out there. I've worked out there when I was stationed out there. Everybody's worked out there at some point in time.
Did you box there? Was there a boxing ring when you were there?
Nope. My class was one of the few that did not have boxing.
You were probably in between. There was a period where they totally got rid of it. They had a boxing ring there at one point.
They did, but nope. Our class did not have boxing. So
I really appreciate you answered the questions. I know it's probably not always easy and comfortable because you know that you're not given the answers that everyone wants to hear. Maybe like you said, the conspiracy. A lot of people want the conspiracy angle, I think, and I think it's good to have someone like you that has been there to kind of comment, even though you don't know a lot about this situation. So I really appreciate you being here, Larry.
yeah, and that's all. That's all I'm saying. When the report comes out, then everybody can do it. You're not doing it. You're not doing anybody any good right now with the speculations, rumors, innuendos, sources and things of that nature. Um, you know, and everybody's running around using people that got kicked out of the academy. You get kicked out in week 18 and 19, it's usually an honor code or a test thing. So that's got nothing to do with anything else.
Yeah, I think someone just said, "I just want the truth." I think that's all we all really want. Hopefully,
You'll get there eventually. It's
yeah.
just this isn't crimes. Life on the streets on TV. It's everything. It's not done in an hour. It's not done in a month. Some of the chemical tests that they will run in an autopsy will take 6 to 8 weeks.
What would your advice be to the family? Because I think that's where
I have no
I
advice
feel the
for
worst.
family. I can't even imagine. Mike, that's so not even in my realm to make a comment on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Because I mean, that's the hardest part for me is thinking that poor family. They don't know what to think. I know that.
No, I agree. They don't know what to think, but I can't even. But
So I guess my final thing is for you is, do you have any final thoughts that you want to share that you kind of didn't discuss on the police audit or any of that stuff tonight too?
yeah, one of the things about the audit, I want to talk about the process of the reporting. Uh, you know, where this auditor has to have somebody to report to. Normally you'd report to the audit committee. The current audit committee is a hostile board. Um, you're going to have another angle to go to. I mean, this is not going to work with that current makeup of individuals with the behavior that I saw the other day. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but it just that whole thing makes it look like it's fixed. And the whole problem with this is people already think it is fixed. That's why they called for this. And now it appears that you're trying to fix the system again. It just doesn't look right. And as long as it stays that way, you're going to have a hard time finding anybody that's willing to come in here and deal with the IAC as it currently comprised.
It's a good point. Perception is reality in a lot of respects, even if it's not, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So who's your next guest coming up today?
We have Attorney Betterow. I think he's in the green room right now. Do you want to meet him? I think
Yeah,
you
I
guys
would.
should meet.
I would. I'd love to meet him. He's a good guy.
So you've seen Attorney Betterow on some of the shows?
I've read a couple of things.
Yeah, you've read some things. He's a great guy. We got Mazda Media too, so we got them both. I'm going to bring them both up. Let's bring up Attorney Mark Betterow up right now. Attorney Betterow, hello.
How are you?
Good. How you doing? This is Larry.
Hey, how are you?
Attorney Betterow, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
He's a former Mass State Police. He's with the Sturm Group. He just basically told Canton that he's not going to apply for the bid because it's not right what they're doing.
What do you even say? It takes a lot of honor and courage to do that and not take an easy check. So
In reality, and I know that the check, it's great. I take the check, but at the end of the day, it's going to cost me a whole hell of a lot more when I'm tied up in court with having my employees tied up in court for one of these other cases that are coming down the pipeline.
yeah, and they will be coming.
and we're not getting paid by the town to be there.
Right.
So who's paying my employees?
Yeah.
Like I told Mike, probably wait till after the Reed case, the retrial of the Reed case, before I'd move forward with this.
Right. Makes sense.
There'd be a lot more than 200,000.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. I mean, an average attorney outside of Boston's $300 an hour today. Think about that when you look at $200,000 and you're talking about people that were former police chiefs that are writing articles in their expertise, telling them how to do what they do. Those are the people that I was bringing in for this. They don't come cheap.
No, they don't. If you could grab lawyers at $300 an hour today, I would grab them. There's a lot of charge a hell of a lot more than that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, no, if you're lucky, you can find one. If you can find one for 300 that's just starting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's bring in Mazda Media too. Mazda, what's up, brother?
What's going on, guys? How you doing? Good evening.
Good.
Evening. How you doing?
It's always evening where you are, Larry, with that background. That's for sure. Sun's setting right there.
It's my back deck, bro.
That's awesome. That is awesome. That
Up
looks
the
good.
North Shore, you got to come up here, Mazda. It's always like that.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's always sunny in Philadelphia too, I guess, right? Yeah, so the Canton Police Audit, you guys didn't want anything to do with that, huh, Larry?
No, it's it was a 9-0 unanimous vote, and it just we explained it why, and it's just not worth it to anybody, and there's too many liabilities, and it's not working properly, and pushing.
Yeah,
he's got like he's got the A team. He's got like 9 top level people, and he said like usually 1 or 2 will say yes, even on a bad one. Everybody said no. Everyone in his group said no.
Well, it's like touching a hot oven with a hot pot without a mitt on. It's kind of Canton's a little bit of a different breed of animal out there. And even if you got Schwarzenegger, Stallone, and Chuck Norris on your team, I don't know if you want to take on that situation. So I guess I don't blame you at all.
No, especially after we watched the IAC meeting that they were supposed to answer the questions for. That was horrible. My understanding, the chairman's supposed to keep the calm and keep everything at room temperature, and he's the one sitting there with the gasoline dumping it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. A lot of these meetings, we've seen a lot of that too. Just the way they escalate, they actually argue back with people in their town. They never try to like typically when you're running a select board meeting or any kind of meeting involving the town, typically what you expect is you're going to have people in your town that are going to come in hot. They're going to be furious about particular things. And typically your responsibility is to try to not necessarily always de-escalate, but not escalate situations. And we see a lot of these meetings where someone will voice a complaint, or even someone on, say, the select board, not excuse me, the audit police audit board there, Kathleen, and you'll see like Bob McCarthy just getting in a huffing and puffing with her and arguing and literally getting in an argument like a child over these particular things, and not setting the bar, not being the adult in the room, especially if you're in charge of any board. Doesn't matter, this town or any town, you have a responsibility to your town to present yourself well, and not get into childish spats and like Jimmy's saying in the comments here, shouting out 3-2, 3-2, without even actually taking a vote in a few of those circumstances and just spouting out 3-2. So it's a very difficult situation. It's very difficult for the folks in Canton to go through as well. We certainly feel bad for them, and that's why a lot of us are so vocally supporting them and going outside the Canton Police Department, like Mike and I had just a few Saturdays ago, and voiced our opinion about this town because of the way they're conducting themselves. And then you turn around and watch a police audit meeting, and they're shouting at people not only in the town, but again, folks like Kathleen that just want to do the best they want to do to present the town in a great way and bring the town to a level of transparency and honesty. And you have someone like Rita, who's been Rita Lombardi, one of the great residents among many great residents in Canton, who is literally booted out of the meeting for voicing her opinion. And it's a very, very sad situation. And we understand why you've passed, and I think it speaks volumes about the town of Canton, why you guys passed, quite honestly. And like Mike said just moments ago, that it was a 9-0 unanimous decision, and not even one or two among you were even willing to consider it, because it's definitely a whole different animal over there in Canton. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah. And who wants to lose money while you work? And you'll be liable for all this extra work and not be paid. I mean, that's the bottom line for Larry here.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and just getting tied up in court. I mean, that's for the cases. What happens if we get sued civilly afterwards? Anybody can sue anybody for anything. So, I mean, just because you shouldn't doesn't mean you didn't. So,
thank you so much for being here tonight, Larry Smith. He's what is your title over at this STIRM Group?
Technically, it's president, since I founded a INC. So. Has to be president. So I'm the president. I hate saying.
So you're the president.
I'm the owner
here. The STIRM Group. Yeah.
He hates that. You see that smirk? I'm the owner and president. No, you take that title. That's
you take that. You're the owner and president. That's a good title. You earned it. And you got the round table. I want to get these 10 guys on here next time. I bet they have a lot of good stories.
Oh, yeah. They have some good stories, but.
That's what I want to ask you next. Do you have any, for future shows, do you have any good stories to tell us?
Hey, if you ever decide you want to hear the Methuen story in its entirety, I'll give you that one.
I'm ready. So I think that's what we'll do next time. Thank you so much for being here tonight, Larry.
Thank you, Mike. You might want to see how I rated before you commit to giving me another one.
Before the ratings tonight?
Yeah, make sure the ratings are good enough before you give me another offer.
Yeah, no, I don't worry about that. It's all, the audience doesn't matter on that. It's if I like it. That's
see, I got a face for radio, and here I am live. And,
I do. Yeah. You're great. You did great tonight. I really enjoyed you. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks, guys. It was nice meeting you. Look forward to listening. Have a good night, guys. Thank you.
Take care of yourself, Larry. All right.
That's so funny. I always I book the show I always have, based on if I like it. Do I want to listen to this? Do I want to talk to this? So, I mean, obviously I get some feedback from my girlfriend, and I do look at the numbers, obviously, but I didn't need the world to tell me that Vetero is awesome. You know what I mean? After the first show, I was like, oh, this guy is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Even with you, Maz, it's like,
thank you.
Yeah. So I go with what I like, and I like Larry. Larry was good
That's
tonight.
Capitalism. It's your show. You do what you want. And
that's right.
Yeah.
People don't like it. They don't watch it.
It worked for me. It didn't work for me. So
that's the American way.
Yeah. If it wasn't working, then, maybe not.
Yep.
It's working. I don't know. I don't even know how. I just go with what I like. The 3Ms. I like the 3Ms. Everyone likes the 3Ms. 3Ms are back together. The Wonder Power. So what do you, I mean, this Vetero thing, Jesus Christ, you dropped this bomb last night. And it was like, when I read that thing, I was like, stop everything. I was supposed to have a night off, and I was like, holy shit, I'm reading what I've been waiting for months.
Well, I mean, the way I look at it, I didn't drop a bomb last night. I mean, I wrote a letter.
You wrote it a while ago.
There was a court appearance. The letter was, like everything else, it gets docketed, gets out there. But, it is what it is. We're representing a client in the case, and we go where the facts lead us. We use the law that applies and do what we need to do. And that's all we did. It's not that uncommon to write discovery letters to prosecutors demanding all kinds of things. It may be a little uncommon to have the substance like these particular letters. Admittedly, it's not common to attempt to disqualify a prosecutor because they are an essential defense witness. That's extraordinarily rare. Although it's common to demand impeachment material for police witnesses, for example, it's not common that every single police officer involved in the case has or was the subject of an IAB investigation, for example. It's not often that you get the kind of evidence on cell phones that are referenced in the letter. That's not always common. The fact that things are missing is not always common. But, again, I don't want to go outside what's been released. But, we're zealously representing a client. And it's not about hurt feelings or embarrassing people. It's about justice and fairness in prosecution. And we'll do whatever it takes to ensure that process. And if that upsets a few people along the way, that's okay. I mean, that's what it is. But the prosecution has a burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and we damn well expect to hold them to it. And you need credible evidence and credible witnesses. And, they try to do it. We try to prevent them from doing it. And that's how the American justice system works. So that's how I look at it.
And I think before I go to Baz, I just want to say I think it was a very good night for Aiden. Like, he's been quiet on all this shit, and when that got put out late last night, people knew exactly what that meant. So I think it's I'm happy for him, because I feel like he really took a lot of shit for all this stuff, and I think people can see where this is going. And I'm happy for Aiden. What do you think, Baz of Media?
I'm happy for him, of course, like everybody is. This is, again, just a lot of circumstances here have done nothing but validate that this was an absolute conspiracy against him, and an absolute, just everything was weaponized against him any way they could. You had Ken Mello stepping out of bounds on a lot of things that were unbecoming of someone in his position. You had an individual that was weaponized as a witness against him. And just literally, days before Christmas or whatever it was, they declared her a witness. I forget the timeline exactly, but then you have, situations where this individual is calling Tully or calling Mello on the phone. And you see that on page 13 here. Attorney Mark Betterow, of course, points this out. He goes, rather than call 911 or the local police for help at 10:25 p.m., she instead calls Mr. Mello, who, rather than call 911 himself, patched in D.L. Tully as Mr. Carney allegedly continued to intimidate her. So it's just, you can see there when you just read it out loud what's going on there, that they're just doing everything they can to stack the deck against Aiden. And I, reading this again earlier this afternoon, after receiving this last night, I keep thinking of when Aiden walked out of court in October after his original arrest, and he said he was looking for an attorney, which would ultimately be Tim Bradel, and he wanted someone that had a good idea of what was going on in the Karen Reed case. And when, Mark, of course, you were selected and partnered with Aiden to become his additional attorney here to join the team, of course, I jumped right through the roof with excitement, because you were exactly a shoo-in for all this, because you're someone that not only has the legal expertise, but in this particular case, there's so much going on here where so much knowledge is required, that who on this planet would be a better attorney than you to do this? You had the perfect pairing of law knowledge, and then additionally case knowledge of the Karen Reed case, and then also a background on what Aiden's been going through. So it allows you to probably, when you wrote these letters up on the 12th and 19th, when they were released, at least, I'm sure you probably got through these letters a lot quicker than if you had not had enough knowledge up front as you did, that it probably would have taken you a long time to kind of get this stuff together. So I'm pumped up, Mark, to see you walking into court on Friday. And it was awesome meeting you on Friday and Thursday. And it was awesome meeting you on Thursday night as well.
Yeah, no, it was nice meeting you guys. But two thoughts just about this. The comments or what people are drawing from the letters, they're going to draw what they draw. But, these letters have a legal purpose. And I think it's important to recognize that, you mentioned Mr. Mello. The purpose of mentioning Mr. Mello is not to attack him, not to criticize him per se. If people draw their conclusion from that, again, I don't have an opinion one way or the other. But what we are doing in these letters is trying to alert in advance of the court appearance to give him and the other special prosecutor ample notice as to why Mr. Mello needs to recuse himself, which is reflected in the letter, which is you're going to be a defense witness. And, we can criticize or not criticize. The fact of the matter is you have relevant evidence that goes to the heart of the defense, and that makes you a witness, and you can't stay. That's our position. That's not a criticism. That's a reality.
Right.
But, as far as what other people draw or the criticisms or whatever, I don't want to speak to that. Our purpose in laying that out there was to let the special ADAs know and let the court know and anyone else know, once it's publicly filed, that we just don't believe that he's capable of wearing two hats as prosecutor and witness. The second issue I would say is, getting involved in this and meeting Tim and working with Tim. We have great instant chemistry. So it's, everyone has their role. And in any case where you have a complicated case where there's multiple lawyers, lawyers often take the lead on certain tasks. And it doesn't mean that there are one attorney who is, here and the other one who's there. So for example, you saw at the court appearance the other day, the stuff that was actually dealt with on the record, that was Tim's.
Tim Bradle.
The stuff that you saw in the letters, that was me. And yes, it's true that was all dealt with at the bench for what felt like an hour or more. But to be clear, we have an incredible instant bond working relationship. I don't know how well you know him or don't know him.
He's been on the show. We love him. He's great.
Really affable, really likable, really
Smart.
charismatic, really smart, really dedicated. And, we get along great. And there's a lot of chemistry there. The three of us, including the client, when we work together, it works well. So, it's going to be a very good process and be a very even-handed process and something I look forward to. It's a good situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's such a, the charges against Aiden are so significant that it's to me, it requires more than one attorney. And like I think we've said before multiple times, this is not a matter of Tim Bradle on his own level or anything. This is a matter of the fact that it involves, it doesn't matter if Tim Bradle is the greatest attorney in the world. It's a legal team matter, in my opinion, just like Karen Reed, who had David Unetti as her initial attorney. And then as time went on with the charges and everything that were levied against her, it was necessary to hire an Alan Jackson and Eliza Little to basically form a team to basically help her out. And I think the same thing is necessary with Aiden, especially when you have individuals that are coming after him so significantly and trying to do everything they can to lock him up. And furthermore, when a lot of these charges are manufactured, if not all of them, I should probably restate, are manufactured and if not corroborated or colluded against him in terms of trying to get anything they could on him to basically lock him up. And that's why people like myself were like, yes, this is great, because being a lawyer, it's not an easy job. It's not easy to do this stuff, and especially the more significant cases. I mean, this is not small claims court that Aiden's going into. This is basically the big leagues. This is an individual that was locked up for 60 days, and then, like someone just said, was entrapped. And then they're willing to put up. Look, I mean, the dogfight that they're putting up against Karen Reed, even with a judge involved, they wouldn't even dismiss counts 1 and counts 3 without that being escalated to the next level by her attorneys. And even then, they're bringing in an additional attorney in Weinberg. So we're all pumped to see you there. We all love Tim Bradel, Mark, and we're absolutely ecstatic to see you on board. And you're bringing exactly what we all hoped. And when I first met you months ago, I was like, I hope there's a day that comes where you join one of these teams, whether it's for Karen or Aiden or whatever.
Yeah, I think you brought that up first.
I did. Yeah, way back a couple months ago. Yeah, I'm like, let's go, Mark. Jump on board here. Let's go.
Well, you don't solicit. You get asked.
That's right.
But I can also tell you that I can't recall a big case I ever worked on, whether as a prosecutor or in private practice, at any time over the last 26 years in which you were the sole lawyer. In most big cases, you're always going to have more than one. And that it's for a number of reasons. One, you divide the work. You need someone you can run ideas off, brainstorm. You need the support. Any number of reasons. So this is entirely normal and common. And, I'm part of a team. And it just happens to be that this particular task, as it relates to making assorted demands, if you will, which again occur in every case, it just happens to be that I wrote that. That's all. It's not, I wouldn't read into that one way or the other. There's all kinds of things. In the same way, when witnesses testify, different people have different tasks. But, I'm not foolish either. I recognize that the substance of these particular letters is extraordinarily unique. I mean, this is not normal to address the types of specific topics that were being addressed. I'm not going to mislead you with typical lawyer bullshit that it's all, this is not normal. It's not.
Yeah, no, it's not. No.
Imagine being, I know you're not going to be able to answer this, Mark, but
well, you never know.
I just think about, imagine being Mello right now. You think, because I don't think Mello wants to be called as a witness. I'm imagining.
I'm not going to disparage opposing counsel. Again, the letter is what it is. It's addressed to him. He's counsel of record and deserves the respect that comes with that. As far as not wanting to testify, no lawyer ever wants to be in a position where they have to testify. If certainly even worse than that, no lawyer ever wants to be in a position in which they have to testify, in which they are a prosecutor of record in a case. I mean, again, that has nothing to do with the substance of this case or that letter. I'm speaking in a general sense. Calling a case prosecutor or a defense lawyer making what I believe is a compelling argument, with all due respect, that why his testimony is required from a prosecutor standpoint. You don't want that, clearly. And and the reason we sent the letter was, again, speaking colloquially, we can do it the hard way, the easy way. And
the easy way.
Well, the easy way would be, those letters were sent, the first one certainly weeks before the court appearance, with the thought process that gives a 2-week period to reflect, consider, and simply say, you know what, I'll just withdraw. And then that's that. As it stands right now, and in fairness to them, no decision has been made. He wasn't there, as you know. It's been adjourned for a hearing to determine this, because there has to be a hearing. There has to be findings of fact before the court boots a special assistant district attorney. And unless they say otherwise and they intend to defend their position, that means that there's going to have to be a hearing on this issue in which the court takes testimony and makes findings of fact. And if that's the case, then certainly Mr. Mello will be subpoenaed for that hearing. If you read the letters, there are some other obvious people that I think anyone can figure out who would likely be witnesses at that hearing. And that's their right if that's what they want to do. And then a judge would determine about whether he stays or goes. I don't see any way in which he can stay, given, and again, speaking generally, when a prosecutor is literally an ear witness to certain events that are alleged to be part of the crime, I don't know how you can possibly prosecute the case and deprive a defendant of his right, a due process right under the 5th and 14th Amendments to present a defense, a complete defense, a zealous defense, when this testimony is so clearly relevant to the central premise of the defense. So I think we're on pretty high ground here, but
that's good. Yeah.
Judges decide and lawyers make arguments, and
that's right.
There's also a question that came in about, can he refuse the subpoena to testify?
Well, I mean, I guess any witness can refuse to testify. If the court has to make findings of fact, on what basis would he refuse to testify? If a prosecutor, generally speaking, who is the subject of a disqualification motion, refuses to testify on the grounds that his answers may tend to incriminate himself, as the questions being, no, I'm not saying that's the case. I'm based on the question. Then I think that the court would, make the obvious conclusion about whether a prosecutor who takes that course of action is fit to be prosecuting the case. I think the answer would obviously be no.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. One of my things, I think we all need to, I wonder, should we thank Wendy Murphy for this whole thing? It all
She brought
started with
better
Wendy, right?
Well, I guess
that's right.
You can thank her for dinner. I mean, if you want to go 6 degrees to Wendy Murphy, I mean, if I assume if there's no stupid tweets from Wendy Murphy, we don't meet and we don't do this, we don't talk. We don't talk about Karen Reed, we don't meet, So, and then, we don't end up having, as you guys call it, a, whole meal of food with other
food. Supper. Whole meal of food.
Which
Whole meal of steak.
Really upset a lot of people.
Yeah, let's rub it in. How was the steak and lobster, Mazza?
Oh, it was incredible. Are you glad I recommended that to you? Because you were asking me what to order. I'm like, you want to go with steak tenderloins and lobster tails, Mike?
And then Vetero ordered the lobster macaroni there.
No, I had a filet with a side of sauteed spinach for the table. This is for the table. The lobster mac and cheese, of course, is nice.
Oh, that was so good.
Little Cabernet, which goes nice with a good steak. But I'm not here to rub it in, but I'm here to say that the people who complain about this, get a life. Seriously. The group of people who are friendly, enjoy each other's company, have an opinion about certain matters of public interest that you may or may not disagree with, and who have developed a friendship and we're all in the same area and decided to get together and have dinner. And if that bothers you, get a life.
Seriously.
It's not a big deal. And seriously, if you feel compelled to laugh at that on Twitter or, send up smoke signals from the attic about all that.
Oh, I feel bad. I know Kevin probably hasn't had any friends take him off a lobster and steak in a long time.
Well, it's sad. I mean,
It is.
It is sad. It's
actually, as much as I want to laugh about it, it is actually sad. People like that are that upset about this kind of thing. And
if you get off on trying to send in your mind what you believe are witty tweets while you're sitting on the couch eating Cheetos and drinking Mountain Dew, You know,
Because someone went out and had a good time for one night.
because
Right.
other people who you just generally are jealous of or don't like are having a good time. They're not bothering you. They're not attacking you, and you feel compelled that you have
Right.
nothing better to do than just send what you believe is a witty, but in fact is nothing more than a pathetic
Right.
demonstration of your incel lifestyle. Honestly, just
Yeah.
take a deep breath. I mean, we've said this
Yeah.
before. Go on a walk
Yep.
the beach, read a book, go to the movies, go on a dating app, do something. Just stop living in other people's lives. And there's so many of them who just appear to live their lives based on what other people are doing and through jealousy and attempts to criticize
Yeah.
online. And it's sad.
It is. It is for sure. And I saw one of the comments come right at my post, and I'm like, oh, geez. I go, here we go. And it just escalated from there with one comment after another. And it's too bad. You know, we don't really want to have to go back and forth with these individuals. In fact, we wish them all the best. We wish that they would be so non-conflicting in regards to always trying to call people morons and attack Aiden for being on his phone in one particular shot
that was
Brian
crazy.
got. Yeah, they're like, oh yeah,
he was talking to people the whole night. There was
he was.
1 second when he was on his phone.
It's so bad. It's so stupid. And then some people were claiming the waitress was secretly.
Yeah. You think we would have noticed that? Come on. I noticed everything.
That's what I mean. The thing is, me and Mike were sitting there the whole time. Me and Mike had a nonverbal conversation. I looked at Mike like this, and he looked at me like that, and we said, just, keep a lookout on all these waiters and waitresses. Look out for secret cameras and undercover state police. At one time, we actually thought one of the waiters was a member of the state police that visits people's houses, and then we said, "Oh no, it looks like him, but that's not him." So, me and Mike had that nonverbal. Probably like 15 seconds. Probably like 15 seconds. We had that conversation. Yeah,
it's so ridiculous, and of course, I don't stare at any one individual all night. But for those who believe or report this kind of stuff, just to be clear, the man was sitting at the head, one of the two heads of the table.
Right.
With his back against a wall. And I know that because when I got there was a picture, if you recall, of a woman.
Yeah.
That who was it? I thought it was Sally Field. It was actually Madeline Kahn, they said.
Who was it?
Madeline Kahn. The point is, he was sitting against the wall. There was no waitress walking behind. This is all just lunacy. Yeah. And the fact that somebody, is checking their phone while somebody's panning with a picture. By the way, that's my understanding is that's what journalists do who have active sources and whatnot. They look and whatever. I don't care what anybody was doing or not doing, but how this becomes a controversial triggering point of conversation because you're enjoying company with people. Whether they be lawyers, content creators, family of other people who, are supporting a family member in a terrible situation, who cares?
Right. Yeah.
They really
funny, especially after we all had a fun night.
It was a great night. Oh, it was amazing.
It's so funny.
It was awesome.
It was a really good night. Everyone, I was happy to see every single person there.
Absolutely.
It was
it was fun.
And the thing is, it's so funny too. Like another thing they said that Aiden all hates us all, and we all just had the best time with Aiden.
Oh, we did.
And you could tell, I could tell you Aiden likes everybody. Aiden was I didn't get much time with Aiden that night because I felt like everyone wants to talk to Aiden. It's it's just the way it is. It's just it's so funny, and he is very giving. I think he's I don't know. I don't get why they give him so much shit at this point. He's there's no reason for it.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, it's just a bunch of people eating dinner. It happens multi-millions of times a day, every day. Right. It's not that interesting to the general public.
All I have to say, Mark, is you were absolutely entertaining during dinner. Actually, the more you drank and the more you started talking about things you see on X, the funnier. Our table was the loudest.
Oh my god, massive! That was the best, wasn't it?
If you're saying the more you drank, the funnier it became, that's not a unique
You
thing
weren't
to me.
drinking that much.
Oh, okay. I mean,
But it's just like, you know what I think it was?
You were drinking a lot.
After court. I think it was an after court high a little bit.
Yeah.
You were like,
Yeah.
you're like, you know what? Button down. I'm with the boys. I finally meet Mike and Mazza. I'm sitting next to the Nathan Reed. You were having fun. You were having fun.
You had a great time, Mark.
We
were had a lot of good laughs.
They were showing the Saturday Night in Canton video, and I confess, it's funny. And you know, I laughed out loud. It was hilarious, and we enjoyed that. Talked about some of the other, you know, funny videos that have been made, and it's funny.
You have a request now. You actually like came up with a whole another Joe.
I think we got to table that for another time, don't we, Mark? That's something you want down the road, right?
Yeah.
That video. Okay.
That's off the. We'll keep that off the show.
We'll keep it off the record. Yeah.
All right. He's working on some big videos right now.
Yeah.
He's got
I'm not working on it. I barely know how to set up the computer to talk to you guys. So.
Right. Yeah. Oh man,
that was fun.
Yeah,
it was.
I think we covered most of the the court stuff too. I mean, I think for a lot of us too, seeing like we all know you're a great speaker, Mark, but then to see what you wrote, like that's the first time I've seen you reading, you know, the 14-page document, and I think that a lot of people are like, oh, thank God Betterow is here. Thank God he's working on this. I mean, that's the other. I was happy for Aiden, but it was also good for I think all of us just to see. It's like almost like a. We throw this word daddy around a lot, but it's almost like daddy is here, like daddy is but you know what I mean? It's just like almost like a sense of security and like reassurance.
These letters are not uncommon. I mean, you know, you do make Brady demands. You do hold their feet to the fire. You do press them to the proof. You do make them comply with every obligation that they're supposed to do. It just happens to be that in this particular document, it's unique. I mean, the subject matter as it relates to, we think we're getting an incomplete phone extraction. If you're going to say that, you need to tell them why and lay it out. And if you look at the letters again from a legal standpoint, it's not to say like, oh my God, the special ADAs did this. If you look at, you know, behind the curtain here about the point of that, it's at the end where it says, we don't think we have everything, and you're an officer of the court. You have obligations under Brady and Giglio, and our ask here is that you, with that obligation, get to the bottom of this, and you go speak to the state police guys who are responsible for this, and you find out, did we get a complete extraction? If not, send it. And more importantly, if not, why? And tell us why, because that also is going to be, you know, covered under Brady and Giglio. So it's not so much as just to say, what's wrong with you people? It's to, you know, you give the prosecutors the benefit of the doubt. You assume they get bamboozled too. The bottom line is there are things missing. Now, their response that they filed, you know, the day of the court, which is available as well, by the way, is that whatever extraction report you got is the exact same, and here's another copy. And that, you know, may or may not be true. And whatever the answer is, we'll respond to that accordingly, because there are things missing. That's just a fact. But that doesn't mean that the prosecutors are directly responsible. But as you know, as we said in the letter, and this is, you know, in a public document, I'm not breaking news here. The people that were involved in the extraction don't exactly have a perfect track record of providing full extractions. And, you know, you alert that to the prosecutors with the expectation that they will go to those people and say, did you do this right? I need to know what's going on here. Where, you know, why don't we have this? And, you know, we'll see what they do. This is all part of the tennis match of hitting the ball back and forth in discovery and determining whether we believe that there are Brady violations or not. And that's part of the process, is giving them notice of what you're complaining about and give them a chance to remedy it and get to the bottom of the truth. And that's what the letters, that's the purpose of what the letters do.
I think part of it, for a lot of us, we've been watching this happen for a while now with Aiden and Turtle Boy, and we know he's getting railroaded, and we kind of even know how it's working. But to actually get to see those texts, to actually see like kind of where this might go. I know it's a standard letter, it's standard procedure, but it just felt like a lot of us got to see behind the curtain to say, okay, now we what do you, yeah.
Well, I mean, a little bit. I mean, again, to be clear, and I mean, there's even a footnote in the letters, or the letter, which says, even though it's 14 pages, we're aiming for brevity here. This is limited to the exact issues that we're bringing to your attention. So I would not assume that this is the full universe of text messages or other things that, may be involved in this case. But for the purpose of the argument that we're making and to the information that we're trying to bring to the prosecution's attention, it's sufficient. But I would not assume that this is a letter whose purpose is designed to just, empty the tank, and make a scene. That's not the case at all.
Yeah, you this is sent with a specific intent to
That's
give
right.
them the heads up. These
That's
are
right.
the issues, you got to address them.
That's right. And, look, as you saw in court the other day, and this is open court, so this is not anything that's untoward, there's an argument being made by a third party about, things on phones that should not be accessed, and a pro se motion, I guess you would call it, was filed in that regard. And the reality is that I think anyone would agree that there are things that could be on someone's cell phone which have nothing to do with a criminal case. I mean, I don't think any normal, rational person would disagree that, personal health records that have nothing to do with any issue in the case are not the kind of thing that ought to be, looked at or disseminated or discussed. Anything involving family members that have nothing to do with the case. But there are things on people's phones that, if they are relevant to the issues in the case, that they're going to be fair game. And I think if you look at the letter and the text messages that were cited, those all go to the absolute heart of the defense, the heart of the allegations that were made against Aiden, and the heart of a motive for one or more people to have, again, a motive to falsify evidence, if that were the case, right? A motive to, bring something forward, and also could be used in a way to impeach or discredit people. And that's how court cases are. This is not about attacking individuals or whatnot. A witness who brings allegations always has their credibility an issue. And no witness who brings, this is a general point, not this case, this applies in any case. No witness who makes an allegation and accuses someone of a crime gets to say, well, you can't cross-examine me, and you can't impeach me with evidence that may show that I'm not credible. That's not how it works, okay? We absolutely have the right to do that in any case. We absolutely will do that in any case.
Yeah.
And if it turns out in this particular case that there's evidence which shows that the complaints being made here are not credible, you better believe we're going to expose that. That's not rocket science. It's called zealously and professionally representing a client who's accused of a crime. That's how the American criminal justice system works. And if you have a problem with that, then, you should move to Russia or something similar.
Right. Exactly. And, when I read pages 9 into 11, that's exactly how you break it down here. You talk about exactly what they're saying Aiden did by intimidating them. And then you come back and say, well, these particular police officers for the Massachusetts State Police do, in fact, have credibility issues here as well. And then you kind of basically break that down. I thought that was very well done, Mark. I just want to.
Yeah, including the inverted video, which you've talked
about.
about.
That's right. Yeah.
And this, again, this case is so not normal. Okay.
That's right.
So normally when you're cross-examining cops, you're cross-examining in their capacity as cops. In other words, you're attacking the integrity of the investigation that they conducted, or something similar.
Right.
In this case, Michael Proctor, of all people, Michael Proctor is an alleged victim who was intimidated by Aidan Carney. So his credibility is as an issue as it gets. Now, the fact that he is essentially a terminated Massachusetts State Police trooper, that's a fact. That's not my opinion. He's hanging by a thread.
That's right.
He is under serious investigation. He has been suspended without pay. He has been essentially thrown overboard by the DA's office. They're not going to use him, as you saw in all these other cases.
Right.
That's all relevant to his credibility. That's why we demanded a copy of the transcript, which we already received from them, by the way. We have that. Okay. The text messages, those disgusting things that he sent and that, Buchanan liked, we have all that. So they're responding in piecemeal to some of these things. But as it relates to, Buchanan, he got his 5-day slap on the wrist. That's relevant to us.
Yep,
The fact his investigative skills are somewhat at issue, but moreover, we allege that he may very well have committed perjury in the Karen Reed case. That's not, I don't think that's breaking news. Everyone saw what he said about the video, and people may agree or disagree, but he is a witness in this case who is going to allegedly testify that he was intimidated by Aidan's conduct.
Right.
His credibility
is laughable. Yeah.
I have my own views about that. I'm not going to get into that, but my point is his credibility is an issue. Okay?
That is correct.
And if there is evidence, and you look at the letter carefully, if there is evidence in their possession that he knew that video was inverted, then we want that, because that would show that he perjured himself. And if there's a strong good faith argument to tell a jury in Aidan's case that this guy perjured himself in the Karen Reed case,
correct,
we're going to use that. And don't forget something very important about this case against Aidan. There's no way around this. It is totally inextricably interwoven with the Karen Reed case. Okay. They're going to allege that he was running around harassing and intimidating witnesses, calling them cop killers and this and that. Okay. The jury's going to have to know, well, why would you do that? There's no way to wipe out the whole fiasco surrounding the Karen Reed case in a trial against him. Normally, you keep out evidence of one case and another, but all of the Karen Reed stuff goes to the heart of the matter about the allegations against Aidan in this case. Yeah. So, their credibility is an issue. The same, and civilians too. That goes with any of the civilians who are going to testify. So, for example, if there were evidence that turns up that a certain witness did make a Google search at a time that she denied, if that were the case, if there's proof of that, that becomes an important credibility issue at a trial. Okay. Now we'll see. I'm not unaware of other recent, news or online reports about cell phones and whatnot, and why that evidence that they presented may not be reliable at the Karen Reed trial. That's significant in a case where, your client is accused of intimidating someone involved in that case by alleging that they were involved in a crime.
Well, and what about the Bukkake stuff? Like in terms of the inverted, you want to know all about when he knew, what he knew, how he knew.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, we have to wait and see how they respond. But even in a general sense, if you had any evidence in the possession, custody, or control of the prosecution that would tend to show that a witness knew that he was testifying about a video that he knew was not an accurate depiction of what was being shown, but testified that it was. Well, that testimony, I would tell you, is false. Now, does that necessarily mean it's perjury? Maybe. Perjury has to be material, okay? It has to matter. Can't be a mistake about the color of a car. That's not an issue. You would say, well, that may be not true, but it doesn't matter. What you can't ignore, I mean, specifically, and we addressed the inverted video in the letter, so it's fine to talk about this generally because it's in the letter. The significance of the video being inverted is not that, oh, the video was flipped. It moved the taillight. The whole Karen Reed case, soup to nuts, really boils down to what was the condition of a right rear taillight, shortly after a crime. And if the taillight was destroyed, most people would say she's screwed. If the taillight is not destroyed, most people would say she's getting framed. And lo and behold, what happens is here comes a video that they finally produce that Buchanan says was a fair and accurate depiction of what was going on in the Sally port. And by having it flipped around, what appears to be the right rear taillight, in fact, is the left. So you can't see. Moreover, but there's a second thread to this. We also know that there was a certain other person who was kind of snooping around what in fact was the right rear taillight, but because the video was inverted, is off camera. And that person just happened to be disgraced Trooper Michael Proctor. So now, obviously, if a witness like Buchanan made an honest mistake, which, we can debate whether that was the case or not, then that doesn't mean it's perjury. But we want to know, as alleged, in the letter, what was the discussion between him, people in the Canton Police Department, Adam Lally, other prosecutors? I mean, the way it works, having been a prosecutor and having prepped defense witnesses in murder trials, key police witnesses don't testify in high-profile murder cases without a prosecutor prepping them. And part of the prep would be, I'm going to show you a video, and here's what I'm going to ask you. And I think it's also fair to believe, from our perspective, when you look at the video, if you took the time to study it, which you would hope they would do before trial, you would actually say, you know what, it does look backwards. The word Canton on the police car is, everything's screwed up. It's a mess, right? But they just tried to sneak a fastball, on the outside corner, in my view, that said it was a fair and accurate depiction. And only after people reacted, and there was a couple-day break in the trial, as I recall, when the defense came back and kind of got him to admit that, he then got amnesia about the people he identified previously in the video, which, by the way, was himself and Michael Proctor. In other words, he couldn't identify himself anymore, and he couldn't identify his now disgraced subordinate yet partner that he's worked with day after day after day and had no problem identifying on direct examination. So, in my view, is there a fair argument that he perjured himself? Yes. We want the evidence from the special assistant district attorneys to go to the Norfolk DA's office, and we want any notes, any documentation, any evidence that they talked about the video before he testified to it. And if their position is he didn't perjure himself, then that's fine. Lawyers disagree and argue all the time, but we certainly have a right to that because Buchanan's credibility is squarely an issue, because he's going to testify under oath that he was intimidated by, Aidan Carney, who had a bullhorn and was calling him a loser and whatever, and that somehow intimidated him. I mean, you can agree or disagree, but we have a right to dispute that, and we have a right to his credibility. And if there's evidence that we think establishes that he lied on the underlying case that led to this, which is exactly why someone like Aiden would call him a loser, which is an opinion, by the way, we have a right to get into that, and we want the evidence. So this is not exactly rocket science. I don't know why this would shock them that we would make these kind of demands, and there's probably going to be many more coming.
More coming.
Yeah.
There's always more. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're looking for exculpatory evidence and evidence that you're entitled to. I mean, that's what lawyers do.
That's why you get paid the big bucks, Attorney Betterow.
That's why you study how to do, you know, house closings and, you know, apartment rentals.
That's why we get to go to have steak and lobster. Betterow paid for everyone, I heard.
I didn't. No, everyone was.
Yeah, we all paid for ourselves.
Everyone paid their own freight.
Oh, except for Matt. I was gonna pay for Mazza because he makes so much money on the show, but the Glare actually took that from me. Yeah.
Will hooked me up. I couldn't believe it. I felt guilty about it because, like, in my family, we're always like all insistent about paying for each other. I was like, Mazza, I got you, and I'm like, I'm not going to come off as a cheapskate here.
No,
it was like, no, you got it, man. I got you, man. I'm like, all right.
He wanted to pay for everybody.
Right. We wanted to pay for him. And he's like, no, I got it. So
if that was the case, you know, should have let him. No, I'm kidding. It's lawful, Will. Thank you.
Yeah. Will's the man.
I was
great
happy
meeting him.
I was happy he paid for Mazza. I felt like Mazza deserved it.
I felt
you know,
guilty about
the reason I said that, Mazza, is because you do everybody else. You do my show, you do LTL's show, you do other shows. You help out a lot. Like I felt you really. I feel like I should be writing you a check, Mazza. I know I should Betterow a check, but Betterow's fine.
I'm like, no, I don't need any money from you. And you know the way I am, I come on the show out of the a good heart and a good mind that I just want to be here and be active. And it's we're friends. We've become great friends over the past couple of months. You, Mark, and me especially as well. And like I said, it's people like to call us grifters. It's like, well, we spend a lot of our personal time, covering this case and reporting on this case, and we do it out of a good heart and a good mind. And a lot of people like to say, oh, it's all about the money with you folks. And it's like, well, no, it's about helping Karen, it's about helping Aiden, it's about helping other people and getting our voices out there. And like I said, I was definitely blessed by the Glare Thursday night and thanked them privately as well. Yeah.
The grifting, which we joke about all the time.
Yeah.
The people that call you grifters, they're just jealous because they're not as successful. In other words, and again, I don't know how this business model works and frankly don't really care, but you guys get a lot of views and all that stuff. And the people criticizing you are, doing 5 to 10, maybe 15%, but they're trying. Okay. Yeah. They do shows too. They're trying to generate income too, and they generate less for any number of reasons. One, they tend to be less nicer people, less charismatic, ironically more conspiratorial, even though they, less rational. But so it's human nature to just be jealous and lash out and call someone else. It's no secret why the people would say, "How dare you?" go to dinner and enjoy yourself. I mean, how dare they get offended that, relatives of Karen Reed go out and eat dinner? I mean, what are they supposed to do? Starve themselves? They're not allowed.
I know.
Right.
I go one step further too for some of those creators. I call them lazy. Like I am not charismatic. I am not like super, like even well-spoken. What I am is a hard worker. Like some of these people are just damn fucking lazy. That's what it is. Like Mazza, hard worker. Aiden is like the hardest worker you'll ever met. I know he's also got the charisma but like a lot of these people are they're lazy bums. That's it. Like if you put your head down and work, I don't care what it is, you'll end up with something. I mean, that's walking dogs. Like a lot of people are too lazy to actually do something like that. Like it's just I think it's funny actually.
They always say, I remember my second grade teacher from 100 years ago who used to say, idle hands are the devil's workshop. And a lot of these people who complain and hate and do whatever, they sit at home all day and they start their miserable days by logging on, and they stay on and they just rant and rave, complain, harass, threaten lawsuits, and then they go to bed at night.
Who has the time? If you're successful, like I admit, the first thing I do is I check when I get up, but then I'm like, fuck, I gotta go. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm going all day. I might be checking it, but I'm not sitting there all day.
Right.
And on other people. You gotta get, if you're doing that, it's you.
I mean, these people are so triggered by so many things. Some of them have said, oh my God, he must not work. If he's talking to you, what does this guy do?
Imagine how much, it's crazy.
Time management is a wonderful skill to have. And there are times you can't do things, but, multitasking is what, real lawyers do. You have deadlines, you do things, you budget, that's what you do. And it really shouldn't bother you if I, have the time to do things. I mean, I guess they're so angry, they must at least give me credit for having time to write letters, I guess. I somehow found the time to do that. But
yeah. Right? That's what I always am envious of you, Betterell, because I like that's my big thing, time management. I'm always worried about the time and where it's going. So, and I look at you and I'm just like, he knows his shit on time management. I know it. I know it.
Yeah. Get up early every day. I'm up early. Like,
how early do you get up? Give me a number. 4 a.m., 5 a.m.,
5 a.m. 4 a.m. a little.
Okay. 4 a.m. Holy shit. That's what I got to do. I'm going to start getting. What time? Let me ask you this, because we're up late night a lot. What time do you go to bed at night?
It depends. Yeah. I go to bed when I'm tired. That varies, but I don't sleep late. I'll be up at 5:30 every day.
See, that's the thing. Like, how do you, because a lot of times for me, after a show, I'm all amped up. Like, how do you go to sleep after sometimes we're done, like tonight, 9:13. I mean, it would take me a couple hours at least to unwind. Sometimes we're done even later. How are you able to fall right asleep or not?
Well, no. I mean, there's 2 kids and 2 dogs, and it's like a so, there's all kinds of stuff going on, but it also gives you levity. You have perspective, which is, it's good because, work is high stress. This kind of stuff can be, I suppose, kind of high stress with all the nastiness that goes on back and forth. But then you walk away and you say, hey, look at that. Nice family, nice kids, nice dogs, nice house. I'm going to relax. It's not that bad, so hate away. I'm going to, get a nice couple hours of rest.
Nice night.
Hit it back the next day.
Yeah. Do you laugh a lot with your wife? Does your wife laugh at a lot? Like,
I mean, she tries to stay away from a lot of this. I mean, it's impossible, I think, to stay away from all of it. So yeah, there's some degree of laughing just about some of the extra silliness. I mean, do I confess that I showed her, Canton Night Fever? Yes, of course. How do you not?
Gotta share that one.
Have I shout out time shown her some of these very, in my view, clever flipperhead videos that used where he's, made me bunk from The Wire. Yeah, I mean, we love The Wire, so it's funny. But that also triggers other people. They just can't like the incredible creativity and talent of a lot of people. Some of the stuff that, one could call more serious, if that's even the right word, I've had her watch too, or it said, you got to watch this, like some of, another shout out, like some of the microdot stuff, which is just so good.
Say micro Richie. Well, can we say Richie now? We all.
Yeah, Aiden kind of said that on his live stream during dinner, and I'm like, okay, I think it's kind of well known at this point.
We'll just say we love microdots. He's a great dude.
So I say, you got to watch this. This is like, because in many ways, I'm in awe of everyone's talent in whatever field they're in, and these video creators and editors, or I don't even know what you call it, is astounding to me how good they are. at what they
No,
do.
he's unbelievable. Just that all the technology he puts into those videos and the way he edits it and all that stuff is absolutely incredible. He's done an incredible job.
I'm waiting for the Flipperhead Microdots collaboration. So we take
sure.
the brilliance of the Microdot production with the cultural additions of Flipperhead, and we merge it into God knows what.
Mm-hmm.
They're both great. Others too.
That'd be incredible.
Another, another. We said hard worker. Richie is a hard worker.
He is.
Microdots was it?
Yeah.
And you can tell he loves it too. We were talking about that the other night. How much he loves it. Like you gotta love it to put that much time and effort into something. You really have to love it.
It is, and the one. I think I told them this the other night at dinner. The one video that I thought was just beyond compelling is the one from the bar at the is that the waterfall?
Yeah,
right.
Which one? I think it's the waterfall where they're grabbing it.
It's waterfall.
Last stop of the night.
And I got to tell you, that watching that actually gets the brain moving, and you see things that maybe you didn't perceive at the trial the first time, and you say, you know what, the lawyers they're going to use this the second time. I don't mean literally that they're going to be allowed to use video in a literal sense, but they're going to use these clips. They're going to focus on this, and that's great. And of course, you say that publicly, and then you get the, any 10 drunks in a bar, you idiot, you this, you that. And I'm thinking, if you can't see or at least perceive how off everything felt from those videos, then you're just being intellectually dishonest. You don't have to agree with guilt or innocence based on that, but if you can't see something was off,
something's going on.
Something was off.
Something's going on. Yeah.
So I don't know how he came up with that. I don't know how he did it. If you're watching, Rich, it's incredible. And I would expect the lawyers, if there really is a retrial, that they're going to use that stuff because it's so powerful.
That says a lot about the work of Microdots right there.
Yeah. Great person to have on our side. I'll tell you that much. He's done he's done an award-winning job. Let's be honest. He deserves a special kind of award and recognition for the videos he's made. Yeah. It's been great, above and beyond work, and just great talent, great editing skills, great narration. All that stuff has been.
Well, yeah. Shout out to the British voiceover guy too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. When I first started watching those videos last summer, I'm like, why is this guy, why does this guy have so much interest in this? And then I found, then I learned we do have a huge bunch of people on our side from the UK and London anyways, but it turned out that wasn't the case, that the narrator was probably, I don't know. I don't want to spoil anything, so we'll leave it at that.
Not me.
I didn't say anything. Yeah.
No secret, no trade.
There's a man from the UK. That's what it is. He's narrating. You got to find him.
I heard it's no, I'm not gonna. I was gonna make a joke. I'm not
yeah,
gonna.
It's late.
I'm not gonna save myself from some trouble right now.
Yeah.
It was gonna be it would have been at Microdot's expense, but it would have been someone else.
Okay. Yeah.
One of those conspiracy theory people.
You could do it, Mazza, with that radio voice you have. You could definitely.
Oh yeah.
I could be the voice.
No problem. Yeah.
Could be the voice.
I'm actually surprised nobody's reached out to me yet, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant when I say that, but I get so many remarks about my voice. I was actually in an office meeting last week. Me and my boss were talking to one of our clients, and he actually said, you ought to be in radio, the guy says. And I'm like, I get that a lot. That's what I kind of said. I'm like, I get that a lot. So. But yeah, I do narration if people wanted me to do that for sure. I'd definitely step up and do that. No problem at all.
There you go. We could solicit some work for the voice over here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I want to thank you both for being here. Is there anything else that we didn't touch on tonight that we should before we go? We got it all.
I think we got it all. Yeah.
Now, they're doing this Karen Reed fundraiser for dinner. Did you hear about this with the Yannetti?
I did.
I bought my $50 raffle ticket.
Hmm.
And I was talking to Kelly Reed about this. I said, who do I take? Do I take Mazza or do I take my girlfriend?
That's an easy one. You take your
If I win, take
If
my
he wins.
girlfriend.
Yeah.
You take your girlfriend if you want her to be your girlfriend. Yeah.
Well, it's does she want to go?
Let's put it this way.
I think she might want.
Give her dibs. How about that?
Yeah, that's what I'll.
It's
probably
gonna.
do.
Yeah, you're gonna
I
have to
have
go
a
through
feeling
her
she
first.
might say,
Yeah.
"Let Mazza go." Maybe she'll want to go with Mazza. Maybe she'll say, "I'm going with Mazza, and you're staying home." Maybe that will happen.
Yeah.
Right? We'll see.
That's going to drive them nuts too, right? Because they're not allowed to do that. They were going nuts too about the mortgages. God, it's all standard stuff, about paying, how lawyers.
They're going crazy. You know what's so funny? These trolls, because that made me
every
think like
every day. That's unique.
They're idiots because they're going after Karen Reed because she has to remortgage her home because she's losing so much money because they're trying to bankrupt her with these retrials.
Right.
And it just when they brought that up, it made me realize we need to raise more money for Karen. Mm-hmm. That's all it made me do. And when they started going off on that, I was like, you know what? I need to do more again. I need to start raising more money for Karen Reed. Like we need to double down for Turtle Boy and Karen Reed. That's it. Like every show, I'm going to be talking about it. Like people, if you can throw down $50, give it to Karen Reed right now. FreeKarenReed.net. Hit up Nick Rocco, make a screenshot. You're in for the raffle for the dinner with Karen Reed. So, and if you don't have a date, you can take me or Mazza. So there you go.
They see goblins in every window. It just all it does is undermine their Chicken Little credibility problems. I mean, people who are facing the kind of situation that she's facing and incur debt to hire top level lawyers who are not yet fully paid, you can't help but consider the doomsday scenario, right? I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but you can't help but consider what happens if she never works again because she's imprisoned for 20 years or more, which I don't think will happen. But the lawyers don't just say, well, in that case, I shouldn't get paid for dedicating by that time 5 years of my life, 20 hours a day, and just, they have bills too. That's how the system works. They get paid for their services. And the fact that they would, take a lien or a mortgage in the way that they did, it's just not that unique. It happens all the time. And to turn that into some kind of, supposed scandal it just shows how unhealthy and how stupid a lot of the criticism is. It's just that everyone's looking for angles to criticize, both defendants really in both of these cases for every little thing. And it's just so unhealthy. And I think it was interesting because you saw this. I did see some clips last night of Aiden's thing when he was talking to, the Phelps, who's doing the Netflix or whatever, or no, not Netflix, the podcast series. That, and he kind of echoed one of the things that I know I've told you guys before, which is I've been doing this a long time and seen some really nasty emotional cases. I have never seen 20% of the vitriol, nastiness, hatred, trolling, defaming at times. Yes, there are times it does happen. That you somehow see here. And, he was sharing the same view, and it's just fascinating. It's a whole nother level of crazy.
Yeah, it's awful. It really is.
It's on a whole personal level. It's not like your typical people online disagreeing. It's just these people are they're emphatic about just taking on everybody, and it's insane.
See, it's not
Go ahead.
Family. Obviously the family doesn't like defendants. They want to believe that they committed a crime and they want them held accountable. But what's so rare about this case is that most of the people screaming and yelling and threatening and trolling are yahoos who, either live in an attic, live in, mom's pleasure if she's willing to give you an allowance, live in some house across the country, do all these kinds of things. They have no real connection or relation to any of this. It's not normal that those are the majority of people who are screaming and yelling about a criminal case and obsessed with making Twitter pages, with pictures of a defendant or besmirching them and whatnot. It's nuts. Very rare. I mean, it's, the high profile nasty cases I've seen, you get family and friends. They're pissed off. We believe that, your client committed a gruesome murder or did a terrible thing. It's understandable. Family's going to be really emotional and upset, and, that's expected. But, not some random woman in Indiana who knows nobody who's screaming and yelling. It's so weird.
No
all
comment.
the shit that we get. The ones that get it the worst, Karen Reed. I mean, her family has been. They were attacked in Date the other night. Like, just for what? For what?
Well, for what?
Just
for eating
there.
dinner.
Yeah, for eating dinner.
We didn't. Well, no, it reminds me.
He hasn't been accused of anything.
Well, where were the Lexuses? We were told we were going to get. Didn't the trolls say we were going to get Lexuses?
Didn't the trolls say that he bought people with Lexuses? That turned out to be false. They never apologized to Nate, did they?
No.
And they're still attacking the guy.
False lies, yeah.
Like, he is the nicest guy. Like, he hasn't been accused of anything. I don't understand why they have hate for even him.
Yeah.
No. And
great guy.
The hypocrisy is crazy. I mean, you saw something last week, and I don't know, people say we think we know who the identity behind an account is. I don't know if that's proven or not proven, but one of those in really, really nasty accounts was outed allegedly. And this is the person who I know was on the phone when all that crazy Canton crap was going on over the summer, when Aiden was there, and, but there was this article about that individual, whoever it is, who is alleged to be an otherwise normal person, I believe, like with a real job and a wife or soon to be wife.
He's not a ratchet.
If it's him, I mean, again, I don't want to even use his name because I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The point is, whoever that person is was sending messages, which if you can't interpret those to qualify under the Massachusetts witness intimidation statute about talking about physical harm, threats, and death and warnings to somebody who is a defendant in a criminal case and qualifies as a witness or potential witness or somebody with knowledge in a criminal case, why is that person not being sought out by the Massachusetts State Police to be prosecuted for witness intimidation? Why, is somebody who, some apparently nice woman who just, threw a rubber duck on the littered, if you will, that apparently gets the attention of the state police, but, something that could be interpreted as a death threat, arguably to Karen Reed repeatedly, by the way, it's not like a one-time thing from what I saw. That doesn't merit investigation.
Yeah.
I mean, this is
no investigation.
Backwards. I mean, if you want to talk about real witness intimidation, whoever that person is, that is what witness intimidation is. And by the way, that would be witness intimidation in New York and other states too, because, Massachusetts statute is so ass backwards. It's crazy. That's not an emotional harm thing. The Massachusetts emotional harm thing is nonsense. That is a threat, which would constitute
a real threat to harm.
Yeah, that's right. But they haven't apparently put forth any interest in that because they're tracking down the rubber duckies. And it's
amazing that people that drive by in their Jeeps on that street that have front, duckies all across the front of the dashboard don't get pulled over by. It's amazing they don't have cops out there like, hey, what do you think you're doing driving by this pizza place?
It's funny because I see the rubber duckies everywhere, even on the North Shore. And it's not related. It's not related to Chris. Like, people just have rubber duckies. Like, I see a guy on my town. He has them all across his car in a Jeep, actually, and it has nothing to do with Chris or D&E.
No, it's
funny how they charge that woman with, like you said, littering. But we got video of the other guy there. What's his name? Jim Ferris. He smokes his butts, throws him on the ground
Right.
over and over and over
Right.
again. We have video of that. They don't give him a citation for littering.
Of all the rubber ducky nonsense, the thing that struck me the most, and this is jaw-dropping, is the way that case generated was a person who is a witness called the state police personally, not the local police, state police dealing with a homicide case, who apparently had the time to drop everything in a matter of hours, including pulling video, tracking license plates, getting receipts, this and that, and just fast forward after that really cringe interview, intimidating interview, I would call it, and self-righteous interview, with ironic references to the First Amendment right to video, which is what Aiden did, but I'm not going to get into that. But at the end of the day, the state police homicide unit, if you will, essentially made an arrest or something akin to an arrest for littering. That's got to be the first time in recorded history. It's since 16 whatever in Massachusetts that the state police taking callers for littering and with a straight face saying this is the right thing to do. And
I don't even see town cops doing that. I've never seen it in a long time. That's something maybe in the 70s that you would see.
I don't think
not the state police, not the state police, and I'm unaware of a town cop or a sane one anyway who would arrest a woman who, as a joke. No, I remember kids in high school would throwing a cigarette out the window and they get pulled over. They'd get a ticket. They get a littering violation ticket.
I guess it's like anything in the town of Canton. It depends on who you are or who you aren't in order to see how the criminal activity is assessed. Who can hold the sign, who cannot.
There is a concept in the law, a concept known as selective prosecution, which very rarely ever works. I mean, it just doesn't work. When you look at what's going on with the use of the witness intimidation statute in Norfolk County and specifically, under the direction of the Norfolk DA and the state police who work there, and how they pick and choose who is subject to being prosecuted for witness intimidation. Nice lady puts a rubber duck out, call her. Guy goes on Twitter and says, you're going to die if you get acquitted.
Nothing.
Okay. If you yell at a police officer, you're a loser. And we don't like your, point of view on the Karen Reed case. Do you notice here the duck? Now, if somebody was throwing a duck and it did say free Karen Reed or what Colin was there, whatever it was, is she getting collared? No.
Right.
In other words, that's content based. Okay.
Yeah,
that arrest is based on her opinion, not her conduct. Nobody gives a shit.
It'd be like arresting someone because they're a Democrat or a Republican.
Right.
I mean, that's right. It's like political speech.
All right.
Nobody cares that a person put a duck on the bench. If you went and looked at the duck and it was just a regular duck, you'd all roll your eyes and laugh and say that whatever. The only reason she got arrested this has to go to court for a clerk's magistrate, this Massachusetts thing, is because of the content that was on the duck, because it said free Karen Reed or whatever. So if cops are making arrests based on the content rather than the conduct, that's going to violate the First Amendment. And of course, you've seen
a lot of that going on in Canton. Yeah, a lot of First Amendment violations going on in Canton.
Why do they have such a hard on for Aiden? Was it because of the content or his conduct? Now some person could say, well, you know what? I'm offended by, him yelling at people in public. And so to me, I don't care that it had to do with Karen Reed. That's offensive. That argument does not hold water when you have lunatics online saying you're going to die. And that's not worthy of an arrest. That argument doesn't hold water when she's walking around the courthouse and people are screaming at her, saying you're a killer, you're a scumbag, I hope you die. I think you're having an affair with your lawyer. Why don't you admit it? That could cause her emotional harm. That could lead her not to testify. But you don't make that arrest. Why? Because you approve of that content. All of these arrests and prosecutions, the one thing they have in common is the people that are getting charged, support Karen Read. The people who are committing the same exact conduct, but who are against her, are not. This is an argument at some point is going to be heard and is a very strong First Amendment argument that at some point is going to be made.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to seeing what happens next in court. Glad that Bettero is in the arena now. This is for us.
That's right.
This is great.
I will not be there next week. I'm not going to the district court. I'm not going twice in 5 days, like back and forth for the lower court case. But I'll watch virtually. I'll be there virtually.
And in there in spirit. Sounds good to me. I don't blame you.
And what is that next? What is that next one about?
Tuesday morning, right? 9 o'clock?
October 1st. That's in the Dedham District Court. That's related to that court appearance where they tried to have him removed, and you're probably better off asking. You don't want to hear my opinion on that. I should say nothing more. Nevertheless, there are it's a third case, basically. The two that are in Superior Court and the third in District Court, which will be heard this week.
Is that Tuesday, you said? October
Tuesday.
1st?
October 1. Yeah. October 1. That's a morning appearance.
Yeah, it's like 9 a.m., I think. Yeah. I think the gatherings are starting at 7 a.m.
Is that worth broadcasting that day?
May as well. I mean, may as well, just for the sake of it. It'd be nice to have it broadcast if it's going to be. You might as well do it, Mike.
I'll have to call them and get the Zoom again. It's always like a hassle.
Yeah.
District Court this time.
Gloria, just give me the Zoom link already. I hate having to call in every week for this.
Yeah.
What'd you guys see on the Zoom the other day? Nothing but the judge?
Nothing.
Is that what people told? Literally nothing.
Yeah. But we may get video. A lot of times what happens is the Canton Community Television goes and films it, and then they upload it. So I'll check on Monday. They may have better video of it. Usually their audio isn't as good though. It's weird.
Right.
So
okay.
So we'll see. Maybe Monday they might have. We might be able to see what Bettero was actually doing over there in court.
All right. Yeah.
Not much, except for at the bench,
right? Yeah. Tim did all the talking that day, anyway.
Yeah.
We saw in front of the judge. I don't know what was on the side.
I did a lot of talking at the bench. That was a long side.
Yeah, I imagine it was very long on camera too. Where we had all the beeping on the stream there, Mike. Remember that? You probably muted the thing. Mute it.
I had silenced all my devices, and so I was confident. And then I heard, and I said, "Oh my God!" I thought I'd turn this off. And bless his heart, Cosgrove said, "No, that's actually me."
Oh, you're talking about Cosgrove who's beeping, yeah. There's also this thing when they go to sidebar where the video starts beeping on Zoom too.
It's like you're in a hospital room. It just has that mood to it.
It was like that, like the heartbeat thing.
Yeah.
Beep.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're being recorded or something, like one of those beeps. I don't know.
Well, that stuff all does get recorded. It all becomes part of a transcript. I mean, at some point, there is a record of that, which presumably would be. There's no reason that won't be publicly available. It's not like state secrets going on up there.
It's weird. They give me. I was the first one doing this. So when we go to Superior Court, it says right across, "This is not to be recorded" or some bullshit. And I'm like, F this, I'm putting it on. And then all the trolls are coming at me saying, I'm going to jail. And then after a while, I'm just like, you know what? I'm just doing it. I don't give a shit. And other people start doing it too. Now everybody is broadcasting it. I don't get that. Why are they doing that, Mark? Do you know? Do you have any kind of...
No. I mean, I just, they don't generally allow cameras in the courtroom, as you know, and they certainly don't allow private individuals to record in a courtroom or take pictures. And I think it's just an extension of that. There's not necessarily any rhyme or reason to it. But I mean, I don't know why a public appearance on Zoom that the public is watching anyway, and that TV channels could be recording and whatnot would not. I don't know. I mean, it's
especially when it's this case, when the defendant wants it to be broadcast.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Aiden wants that broadcasted, so
not camera shy.
Yeah. And especially on this one, because he wants the truth to be shown, like.
No, they had a full courtroom. The big courtroom was every seat taken, on both sides, which is, it is a pretty large courtroom. So, I mean, there was certainly, I don't know how many people that translates to, but there was a lot of people there in person. And, there were some other lawyers straggling around.
I got a question you probably can't answer. One last question tonight.
I never know.
You always say you always say sometimes maybe this would be better for a bench trial. What are you thinking about Aiden? Like, is there any talk or discussion about that with Bradel and Aiden and you, or you just don't know yet? Like, where is that headed? Is it going to go to a jury if it goes to trial, or a bench trial? How does that go?
So now you're asking me about attorney-client communications processes. So
no,
not going to be a weasel, but yeah, no, I'm not going to get into that. But what I would tell you again, and this has nothing to do with decision making, this is a very unique case in that whoever is adjudicating this case, whether it be a judge or jury, all the Karen Reed shit is coming in. That's a wild card. That's a lot. You can't keep out the fact as to why he allegedly would be running around saying, you're involved with cop killers, which they allege, right? I mean, you can't deprive a jury or judge, if it were, from that information to know, well, why would you say that? Well, because there's evidence that I'm aware of and that I believe and so and so. So this is going to be, in many ways, could be a more difficult case for picking a jury than Karen Reed, which is, you would say, is impossible because of all the attention around that. But now you add in all the Karen Reed stuff, and you add in, the client's stuff, and you say that's a hell of a task.
Yeah, and who knows if Aiden's blogged about some of these people who could be on the jury too. Like he's covered a lot of stories in the past.
Well, anytime you have jury selection, you certainly would hope that people answer questions honestly and say, if I'm, you would always be asked, does anybody know any of the parties? And if you do, they're out. Now, you would hope, you're on the honor system on that, but those jurors are sworn. So if it turns out they lied, that, they're in a lot of trouble.
Let's hope it's fair. That's all we can ask for.
That's all you ask for is a fair trial. That's right.
Thank you, Attorney Betterow and Mazza Media for being here. Make sure you follow Mazza Media on Twitter, X, and YouTube especially. It's Mazza Media _ on YouTube, right, Mazza? Is that how it's?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. Yeah, apparently there's another Mazza Media on YouTube somewhere I wasn't aware of. So
it's Mazza Media
out there apparently
@_ on YouTube. Make sure you follow him on YouTube. Mazza Media _
Thank you.
And Betterow, you know where you can find him, betterowlaw.com. or at Betterow Law on Twitter, X. Thank you guys so much for being here again tonight.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Have a great week. Enjoy.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Take care, Mike. Take care, Mark. Bye.
And we're the Young Jerks. I want to thank everyone who's been doing super chats tonight. We had quite a few come in tonight. I want to thank our guests. We had some great guests tonight from the Sturm Group. It was an excellent interview. And I want to thank Mazza and Mark Betterow for being here. And I'm just looking at super chats. I think I might have missed a couple. I don't know. I'm just looking through. Oh, this one. And people are asking, what was the video you all were watching, laughing at? It's called Saturday. I think Canton Night Fever is maybe the name of it. Shawnee Sean on Twitter put it out. You know what I'm going to do? I did this before. I'm going to find the link and I will post it as like the top comment in the YouTube after the show's over. So if you're looking for it later, we will find it and you'll be able to, click on it and watch it yourself. And I think everyone should do that. If you're looking to have a laugh tonight, I watch that like a couple times every day. It just never gets old, man. When Chicken Palm Charlie gets involved, and then at the end with Tristan and the girl, when the girl shows up, it's all over, man. That video, you got to watch the video. Saturday, Canton Night Fever, I think it is. Carol said, "Did you get my super chat?" I did. I posted that. I did post that. I want to thank everyone for all the super chats that came in tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for supporting. Let me check the Venmo real quick. It's funny with this light, I'm realizing my hair's purple or something. I don't know if I can. I think it's been like that for weeks too. Tonight, I'm really noticing it. Melanie sent 25. She said, "Thank you for being such a big part of exposing these corrupt Massachusetts police officers. We adore you." Thank you so much, Melanie, for sending 25 on Venmo. Barbara also sent $10. Thank you so much, Barbara. She's a regular contributor. Thank you so much, Barbara. And I think that's it. I did read that the other night. Let me just check a couple more things here today. And Neil Kelleher, I feel like I can say that. He's always at the protests and rallies. I see him online. Neil sent $25. He said, "Thank you, Mike. Great show." Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you for being someone who supports Karen Reed and always showing up and giving your time and being a part of the movement. Thank you so much, Neil. Very generous of you. I want to thank everyone. Thank you so much. I'm not sure when the next show will be. Tuesday at 2 p.m. Canton Audit Committee is supposed to have something going on with the bid process. So I expect that we'll be broadcasting that hopefully 2 p.m. live. If Canton Community Television broadcast it, we'll stream it as well. I don't know what else is upcoming for us, but we'll have some shows. Just check out our YouTube. I got a lot in the works, actually. So make sure you check us out. Subscribe if you haven't. And check back at night. Usually afternoon. See if we posted any new updates or announcements on shows. I expect there's going to be some pretty good guests upcoming. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Bettero. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the Venmo. Thank you for the Square Content Cash App. And most of all, thank you to the guests tonight and the moderators. I want to thank MJ, always there, Scott. I want to thank Jen and Stephanie. All of our mods are great. I want to thank you so much for supporting us and watching and commenting and keeping the chat respectful and nice and supportive of the guests. Thank you, Glenn Lake. He's always here. Yeah, thank you, Glenn Lake. Glenn Lake is one of our best supporters. He buys a lot of super chats and especially memberships. Thank you so much, Glenn. Did Glenn just buy more? I have a feeling he did. Thank you so much, Glenn. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. We'll see you.